While Sucker Punch Studios is now fully wrapped up in samurai stories, I, Suggestive Gaming, figured now would be a good time to cover one of the channel's most suggested series, the studio's previous big PlayStation franchise, inFamous. Now, before we begin, there are a few quick notes I should get out of the way. First off, the inFamous series is pretty straightforward compared to some of the timelines I've covered on this channel, but it does still have a couple pieces of side material that I'll be skipping over, namely a couple Facebook and web-only games that don't really add much to the story. I will, however, be covering a couple comics surrounding the first game. Also, while inFamous Festival of Blood was released before Second Son and First Light, it's a non-canon standalone Halloween story told in-universe by one of the characters, Zeke, so I'm gonna save it for the end of this video as a quick bonus. It's not really part of the main timeline, but it's still an official inFamous game. And also, I don't know how I could live with myself if I skip the one where Cole MacGrath becomes a vampire. Finally, because this series is built around morality choices, there are technically multiple versions of events. For the sake of keeping this video coherent, I'll mostly be following the good karma path, since that's the one that the later games treat as canon. I'll still mention the major evil choices when I can, but I'm not going to stop and linger on every possible difference the games offer. You'll have to play them yourself for that experience. Now, without further ado, this is what you need to know about inFamous. Our story begins in Empire City, where bike courier Cole MacGrath is given a package and instructed to deliver it across town. Unbeknownst to him, Cole is being followed by NSA agent John White, who is following the package as it contains something extremely dangerous, a device called the Ray Sphere. John watched a man called Kessler use the device to imbue a rat with super abilities, allowing it to eliminate 3 armed men. Yeah, a rat took out 3 soldiers. Unfortunately, John loses Cole in traffic, and the messenger speeds off, unaware of the contents within his parcel. While it seems like a normal job to Cole, when he reaches his destination, his phone suddenly rings and the Ray Sphere activates. As it does, it releases an explosion powerful enough to destroy several city blocks, killing thousands of people in an instant. Cole, somehow, survives at the center of the blast, but he doesn't come out unchanged. John is thrown from his bike, but survives the blast as well. After making his way through the crater left behind, he finds Cole unconscious at the center of it all. John then takes the Ray Sphere off of him and subsequently disappears. When Cole awakens, Empire City is now in chaos. The government has arrived to quarantine the entire island, cutting it off from the outside world, and in the confusion, the city's gangs begin to take over. As he comes to, Cole realizes that the blast has inexplicably given him the ability to absorb and manipulate electricity. Cole spots his best friend Zeke Dunbar and tries to get to him, but eventually collapses from exhaustion and passes out. 2 days later, MacGrath awakens in an alleyway surrounded by Zeke and Cole's girlfriend, Trish Daly, who lost her sister Amy in the blast. All he remembers is delivering the package, hearing his phone ring, and then everything going dark. Suddenly, electricity starts surging out of him uncontrollably, sending him into a violent convulsion before he collapses again. Outside, meanwhile, Empire City is falling apart just as quickly. John realizes his own agency has abandoned him, and as the government prepares to quarantine the city, he tries to escape through the harbor. Unfortunately, the docks are already packed with people desperate to get out. Suddenly, matters get even worse when crazed, seemingly infected people begin attacking the crowd. Government soldiers open fire, and the entire scene escalates into chaos. One of the infected attacks John, but he's able to fight them off before running off to escape. Meanwhile, Cole awakens again, and Zeke informs him that while he was out, he was clinically dead. Cole doesn't believe him at first, but Trish confirms it, warning him that if it happened once, it could happen again, and next time, someone could get hurt. Elsewhere in the city's Warren district, John infiltrates a base being used by a mysterious group called the Dustmen. At this point, John doesn't know much about them, only that they aren't working for Kessler, which means news of the Ray Sphere must have gotten out, and now others are after it too. Unfortunately, John is spotted before he can do anything about it. He tries to escape, but part of the structure collapses on top of him, knocking him unconscious and burying him in the rubble. When the Dustmen search through the wreckage, they find the Ray Sphere and take it for themselves, leaving John behind. Meanwhile, Zeke brings Cole to an empty lot to start testing what he can do. Cole still doesn't fully believe that he has powers, and even if he does, he has no idea how to control them. Zeke, on the other hand, is already treating this like the coolest thing that's ever happened to either of them. Cole then tries to focus his power on a nearby dumpster, only for a small spark to jump from his hand. While Cole sees it as pathetic, Zeke sees it as the beginning of something awesome. Sometime later, John awakens in the Warren, still alive after the collapse. As he tries to figure out what to do next, he overhears a group of people talking about an electrified man somewhere in the city. John grabs one of their phones and sees a picture of Cole with electricity coming from his hands, confirming that he survived the explosion. John realizes that Cole, with his newly gained powers, may be the only person in Empire City capable of helping him get the ray sphere back. 3 days later, with food becoming harder to find, Zeke tries to use Cole's powers as a bargaining chip, offering to have Cole charge a woman's battery in exchange for something to eat. The woman thinks they're insane, but Cole does it anyway, sending electricity into the battery and proving that his powers are real. Unfortunately, instead of handing over any food, the woman panics, calling them freaks and running away. Zeke tries to stop her, furious that she got free help and left them with nothing, but Cole holds him back. From a distance, John watches the whole thing go down and becomes even more convinced that Cole could become useful. He then walks off, noting that he'll have to continue watching him, if his fat friend doesn't get him killed first. Meanwhile, in the Jefferson Tunnel, a gang of former dealers and junkies known as the Reapers begin rounding up civilians under the command of a mysterious woman seeking revenge on Kessler. The civilians are restrained and sprayed with black tar, revealing it to be the same substance that has already begun turning people throughout the Neon District into violent, mindless killers. Back on the streets, Cole and Zeke try to head home, but find that Empire City barely resembles the place they knew. People are fighting in the open, buildings are being vandalized, fires are spreading, and instead of restoring order, the quarantine has only trapped everyone inside while the city tears itself apart. When they return to Zeke's apartment, the pair tell Trish what they saw. The three of them head to the roof and look out over Empire City, now burning under the weight of the past few days' events. Zeke, trying to think practically, suggests fortifying the roof and turning it into a safe place for them to ride things out. Something tells him that things are about to get much worse. 2 weeks into the quarantine, we find Cole MacGrath still living on Zeke's roof, slowly learning to control the powers inside of him. The city around them has continued to collapse, but at the very least, Cole is able to stay conscious whenever he uses his abilities. While charging Zeke's batteries so they can watch TV, Cole feels his powers grow stronger, realizing that absorbing electricity doesn't just keep him alive, it actively increases what he can do. Zeke, naturally, sees this as the coolest thing in the world, and has Cole test himself on some makeshift targets. Eventually, the TV broadcast is hijacked by someone calling himself the Voice of Survival, a masked figure who has been hacking into government broadcasts to speak directly to the people trapped inside Empire City. He tells everyone that the government has dropped relief packages into Archer Square, warning that if the people don't get there soon, the Reapers will. With supplies running low, Cole and Zeke head out to grab what they can. Unfortunately, Archer Square is already crowded with starving civilians, and the food crate is stuck high above the street. Since Cole is the only person there who could survive the climb, Zeke tells him to get up there and cut it loose. Cole climbs the statue, releases the crate, and gets the food down, only for the Reapers to arrive moments later. Cole fights them off, and once the area is clear, he's left with a choice. He and Zeke could take the supplies for themselves and have enough food to last for weeks, or Cole could let the crowd have it. Cole lets the people take the food. Had he chosen differently, Cole could have kept the supplies for himself, blasting the starving crowd away and making it very clear that if Empire City wanted to treat him like a monster, he could certainly act like one. But for our version of the events, Cole chooses to help. For a moment, it feels like he might have actually done some good. Trish is there too, and while she's still grieving the death of her sister Amy, she seems genuinely glad that Cole helped people who needed it. Unfortunately, the moment is interrupted when the Voice of Survival hijacks the broadcast yet again, this time to show security footage of Cole at Ground Zero, carrying the package moments before the blast. To everyone watching, the footage seems to show that Cole is the one who destroyed Empire City. The Voice calls him a terrorist, and almost instantly, the crowd turns on him. Trish sees the footage too, and whatever was left of their relationship shatters in an instant as she leaves him without saying a word. So, with his name ruined and the city turned against him, Cole decides that there's only one thing left to do: get the hell out of there. With Zeke left as his sole ally, Cole heads with him to one of the bridges leading out of Empire City, where a crowd of civilians has gathered in the hope of breaking through the quarantine. Cole leads the charge, using his powers to clear a path through the military barricades, while Zeke follows closely behind. For a second, it almost works, until the military opens fire. Civilians are gunned down en masse as they try to escape. Zeke crashes through a gate to avoid the gunfire and falls into the harbor. In the chaos, Cole is captured and thrown into a decontamination chamber, where the doors seal behind him. Suddenly, a woman addresses him by name from behind a pane of glass. She introduces herself as Moya Jones, an FBI agent who claims that she can help get Cole out of Empire City and clear his name. However, there is a catch. Her husband, John White, was inside the city investigating a secret organization known as the First Sons, as well as the device Cole unknowingly delivered, the Ray Sphere. While John disappeared after the blast, Moya believes that he may still be alive. If Cole helps her find John and recover the Ray Sphere, she promises to get him out of the quarantine. Seeing as he doesn't have a lot of options, Cole agrees. Moya then releases him out of the decontamination chamber and sends him back out into the city, where Cole reunites with Zeke, who survived his fall into the water. Back on Zeke's roof, Cole explains what Moya told him, including what little he knows about the Ray Sphere. Zeke is immediately convinced that every conspiracy theory he has ever believed is being proven right in real time, but he also thinks Cole is making a mistake by agreeing to give the Ray Sphere to Moya. If the device can give people powers, Zeke doesn't see it as something they should hand over to the government. Ignoring his warning, Cole begins to follow Moya's leads, searching the city for signals that might lead him to John. He finds a set of encrypted audio recordings called dead drops, hidden within satellite dishes, which appear to have been left behind by John while he was working undercover with the First Sons. The recordings reveal that John had infiltrated the organization before the blast, but after the Ray Sphere detonated, he was left trapped inside Empire City just like everyone else. He recovered the device from the crater near Cole's body and tried to hide from Kessler before eventually being captured and forced deeper into the First Sons operation. As Cole follows the trail, Moya informs him about an electrician named Brandon Carey, who's been kidnapped by the Reapers. Using his abilities, Cole has a vision upon finding Carey's dead wife, revealing that the Reapers have kidnapped her husband in order to use him to shut down the power grid, which would be a pretty big problem for Cole. Cole tracks Carey into the sewers, where he starts restoring the underground substations. Each time he brings power back to a section of the city, Cole's own abilities grow stronger, giving him new ways to fight, heal, and traverse the city. In the process, Cole finds Carey, who has barricaded himself behind a door because the Reapers threatened to kill his wife if he helped anyone. Unfortunately, Cole has to inform him that his wife is already dead. Carey breaks down, but lets Cole through, and Cole restores power to part of the neon. Of course, Cole could also just fry Brandon and force his way through, but let's move past that. As he brings more lights back online, Cole also starts helping around the district where he can. He protects a makeshift medical clinic from the Reapers, restores cell towers so Moya can keep tracking him, and begins cleaning up parts of the city. As he does so, he starts to win over the people of Empire City. Or not, depending on the choices he makes along the way. Eventually, Moya learns that the Reapers are poisoning the city's water supply with the same black tar spreading the infection through the district. Cole tracks the contamination through fountains, water mains, and underground tunnels, repeatedly exposing himself to the tar in order to shut it down. As he comes in contact with the tar, he begins to experience hallucinations and visions. Through them, he comes in contact with the woman controlling the Reapers, and her name is Sasha. Sasha speaks directly into Cole's mind, using the tar to telepathically push into his thoughts and manipulate his emotions. She presents herself as the only person who truly understands him, telling him that Trish hates him, that Zeke will abandon him, and that everyone in his life is now beneath him. Cole fights through the visions and destroys the source of the contamination, but Sasha isn't done with him. She has been watching Cole, and for reasons he doesn't yet understand, she speaks with him like a scorned lover, and the more Cole interferes with her plans, the more obsessed she becomes. Moya eventually gets a lead that John may be currently held inside of a Reaper-filled stopped train, so Cole attacks the area and frees the prisoners inside. Once again, the public response to this train attack depends heavily on how people see him thus far. Either way, unfortunately, John is not among the prisoners. After the rescue, Cole cleanses some water towers of the tar before he's met by none other than Kessler, the leader of the First Sons. Kessler suddenly rushes Cole and grabs his skull, forcing him to have more visions. In them, Cole sees death and destruction on a massive scale, and he realizes that Kessler is showing him a premonition of the future. Cole believes that Kessler is showing him what awaits if he doesn't stop him, and he realizes that the ray sphere is somehow involved. Before Cole can even react, however, Kessler vanishes. Moya then narrows down Sasha's location to the Jefferson Tunnel, where the Reapers have been taking civilians and spraying them with the black tar. As Cole fights his way through the tunnel, Sasha continues speaking into his mind, but now she seems even more confused than before. She keeps talking to Cole as if he's Kessler, accusing him of lying to her, betraying her, and running around with another woman. Eventually, Cole frees the prisoners and drops down into Sasha's lair, where she has fully lost whatever little grip of reality she had left. When she sees Cole, she greets him like a husband coming home late, asking if there was traffic and telling him to get dressed because they have dinner plans. The two then fight through the tar-filled chamber, with Sasha warping around the room and using the black tar to attack Cole's mind as much as his body. She continues talking about Kessler, about their supposed past together, and about the woman she believes Cole, or Kessler, has chosen over her. Eventually, Cole defeats Sasha, and in the wake of the battle, he realizes that the ray sphere and the tar have completely warped her body and mind. Whatever she was before the blast is now broken almost beyond recognition. Cole fears that if this is what power can do to someone, he could also succumb to the very same fate. After all, they both gained abilities from the blast, making them conduits, as they become to be known. As Cole tries to question her about the First Sons, Kessler, and the ray sphere, however, masked soldiers suddenly storm the chamber before he can get anything useful out of them. They arrive with explosions in their wake, which knock Cole down, allowing the masked assailants, whom Moya assumes are First Sons, to escape with Sasha. Cole then emerges from the collapsing tunnel out into the Warren, now under complete control of the Dustmen. Even worse, Moya suspects that they're also being led by another powerful conduit. With the power out in the district, Cole heads underground yet again and restores the nearest substation, gaining a new ability in the process. Afterward, Trish contacts Cole. Things are getting worse at the clinic she works at as a nurse. People are dying, and she needs to get a bus over to Bayview to search for medical supplies. The problem is that the Stone Canal drawbridge is out of service, and without it, there's no safe way to get the bus through. Trish tells Cole to find Roger Miller, a city engineer who used to work with her father. Trish figures that if anyone can fix the bridge, it's him. Cole tracks Roger down in the Warren, where the Dustmen are preparing to execute him. Trish explains that the Dustmen have been kidnapping engineers and mechanics, forcing them to work on their machines, and publicly killing anyone who refuses. Cole rescues Roger, who recognizes him as the man with powers, and Cole explains that Trish sent him. Roger is relieved to hear that she's still alive, but then asks about her sister, Amy. Cole simply lies and tells him Amy made it out to keep things moving smoothly. Roger agrees to help repair the Stone Canal drawbridge, but the job turns out to be more complicated than either expected. The bridge is badly damaged, and when the hydraulics on the other side fail, Roger has to call in another engineer named Lou to help from the Neon side. Cole runs back and forth across the broken bridge, protecting Roger from the Dustmen and Lou from the Reapers. Along the way, Lou explains that the Reapers were going to trade him to the Dustmen because the Dustmen need engineers for a giant tower that they're building. Anyone forced to work on it is basically being worked to death, then shot when they can't keep going. Eventually, with both engineers alive and Cole supplying enough power to jumpstart the hydraulics, the bridge lowers, reconnecting the Neon and the Warren districts. Afterwards, Cole calls Trish, but reaches her voicemail, leaving her a message letting her know that the bridge is now open. Back on Zeke's roof, Zeke is still trying to live through Cole's superhero reputation by association. To him, the whole ordeal is starting to look like a pretty sweet gig. solving crimes, getting attention, helping people, maybe even impressing women. Cole reminds him that Zeke is not actually the superhero here. While Zeke knows that, he's gotten a taste of what it feels like to matter, and it's very obvious that he doesn't want to give that up. The next day, Cole restores more power to the Warren, and Moya eventually calls to inform Cole that unauthorized drones are now patrolling the district. Since they aren't hers, she wants Cole to recover their flight recorders and figure out who's controlling them. Soon after, a message blasts over a loudspeaker in the Warren. The Dustmen announce that they've captured Zeke, and they threaten to kill him slowly unless Cole comes to the shipyards. Cole naturally immediately heads there, while Moya contacts him and asks what he's doing so far off mission. As far as she's concerned, Zeke got himself into this mess, and Cole can't drop everything every time his friend does something stupid. While Zeke may be a loudmouth and an idiot, and currently working very hard to prove both points, he's still Cole's best friend, so he refuses to leave him behind. At the shipyards, Cole fights through the Dustmen while their leader taunts him over the loudspeaker. The voice makes it very clear that this is his island, his home, and that nobody is going to stop him from taking what he believes he deserves. Cole eventually finds Zeke tied up in a suspended cage, and lowers it before freeing him, preventing the Dustmen from making good on their threat. Zeke reveals that he was trying to help by sneaking in to see what the Dustmen were up to, but Cole scolds him for putting himself in danger. Zeke simply replies that even though Cole is the only one with superpowers, he's not the only one who matters. Moya then calls to inform Cole about one of the spy drones crashing in the Warren, so he heads there to recover its flight recorder. It turns out the drones belong to the First Sons, who are using them to search the district for the Ray Sphere. As Cole takes down more of the drones, Kessler contacts him once again. He then forces Cole to listen to Sasha being tortured, using it as a lesson. Kessler tells Cole that everyone has a breaking point, even Sasha, and that what separates the strong from the weak is the ability to take the pain and keep doing what needs to be done. Cole simply responds with a "screw you," before continuing to collect the rest of the drone data. After Cole collects it, Moya learns that the Dustmen are planning a quarantine break. Their plan is to load hostages onto boats and use them as human shields, hoping the military will let them pass through the harbor. Moya makes it very clear that this plan will not work. The soldiers guarding the quarantine have shoot-on-sight orders, and any boat that tries to cross the line will be completely destroyed. Cole doesn't want innocent blood on his hands, but he also points out that stopping every disaster in Empire City was not exactly part of his deal. Moya doesn't care. If she loses control of the situation, someone else takes over, and that someone won't honor their deal. Left with no choice in the matter, Cole disables the boats, preventing the hostages from being dragged into a suicide run. During the mission, Trish calls him to say that she's been moving patients into a hospital in the Warren. She even suggests that, once things calm down, maybe she and Cole could sit down and talk about what happens when all of this is over. Then, of course, everything goes south. Moya calls again to inform Cole that the president of the country has signed an order to bomb Empire City off of the map if the plague reaches unstoppable levels. To make matters even worse, Trish calls after Cole disables the last boat, explaining that the Reapers attacked her on her last trip and are blocking the way to the hospital. She asks Cole for his help to escort the bus and protect her patients. When Cole meets up with Trish, he finds that she had Roger rig the roof of the bus with metal mesh and a generator, giving Cole a constant supply of electricity as she drives. Cole points out that this is actually a pretty smart idea, and Trish quickly notes that they don't let dumbasses into medical school. Cole then rides on top of the bus as Trish drives it through the city, fighting off the Reapers, clearing obstacles, and keeping the vehicle intact as they push towards the hospital. Along the way, Moya identifies the Dustmen's leader from a photograph as Alden Tate, son of Richard Tate, the former leader of the First Sons. As a powerful mentalist with natural-born abilities, Alden was supposed to inherit the organization, but Kessler took control instead, leaving Alden to disappear into the streets. He spent years homeless and paranoid, but after the blast amplified his powers, allowing him to telekinetically control metal and other objects, that fear turned into something much more dangerous. Cole witnesses this firsthand when Alden appears and lifts Trish's entire bus with his mind, hurling it onto the roof of the hospital with Trish still inside. Cole races to the top of the building, fighting through the Dustmen to get to her. When he finally reaches Trish, he saves her, and on the good path, she admits that when the bus was thrown, all she could think about was Cole and where things stand between them. She knows that he didn't mean to kill Amy. She knows that he's been trying to make things right ever since. And while the anger hasn't gone away completely, she wants them to be together again. On the evil path, though, this moment goes very differently. Trish survives, but she makes it clear that Cole has become part of the problem. If he really cared about her, he wouldn't be running around hurting innocent people and undoing the work that she's trying to do. In that version of the events, she lets him stay nearby, but only barely, and tells him to keep his distance. For our story, though, Cole and Trish are starting to reconnect. Moya then tells Cole that the remnants of the 43rd Precinct Police Department have launched an offensive against the Dustmen. They're trying to arrest Alden, and Cole is instructed to make sure that they succeed. Cole follows Alden's trail through the Warren, eventually finding a park that has been turned into a massive shantytown of scrap metal and junk, which the Dustmen have been collecting to build their massive tower. As Cole moves through the area, he comes across a thief being hanged by civilians for stealing food. He can stop to save the man, or leave him to die in order to stay focused on Alden. Again, very subtle morality system, really easing you into the ethical dilemmas. Anyway, Cole continues the pursuit, fighting through the Dustmen and one of Alden's giant, animated trash golems. After the battle, the police are able to capture Alden Tate and take him to the Eagle Point Penitentiary. This victory turns out to be fairly short-lived, however. The Dustmen immediately begin rampaging through the Warren in response, even outfitting city buses with automatic weapons and turning them loose into the streets. Cole destroys the armed buses, but the situation continues to escalate, and Moya orders him to head to the prison to secure Alden until her extraction team arrives to pick him up. Zeke heads there too, hoping to once again be part of the action. At first, he's actually useful. He helps the cops move prisoners to a secure cell block and even rigs up some electrified walkways for Cole. Cole fights off an onslaught of Dustmen at the prison while Alden is strapped to a bed frame with thousands of watts running through it, keeping him unconscious and preventing him from using his powers. Unfortunately, the attack kills the power to the facility and gives Alden a chance to wake up. Cole heads off to restore the generators before he can, and he instructs Zeke to stay with Alden to make sure he doesn't escape. Zeke doesn't listen. Instead, he runs off to fight the attackers. By the time Cole gets inside the prison, it's too late. He finds a bloodbath, with the cops dead, and, even worse, Alden Tate's cell completely empty. Cole knows that if Zeke had just stayed at his post, Alden would still be in custody. And Zeke knows it too. Instead of becoming the hero like he wanted, Zeke ignored his first real responsibility, and likely, more innocent civilians will die because of it. Moya sees Zeke as a liability that they can't afford any longer, and tells Cole that it's time to cut his friend loose. While Cole doesn't argue much, he still refuses to abandon Zeke. Left mentally reeling from his failure, Trish watches over him at the clinic, while Cole continues his work. After restoring more power to the Warren, Cole hears from somebody new. Somebody completely unexpected. John White. John surprisingly contacts Cole directly, telling him that they need to talk. Alone. Cole goes to meet him, but as soon as he arrives, a helicopter shows up, claiming to be there to extract John. John assumes Cole betrayed him and runs off, while Cole insists that he has no idea where the chopper came from. Strangely, Moya denies sending it as well, suggesting that it may be the First Sons. She tells Cole to follow the helicopter before John gets away. Cole proceeds to chase it through the Warren, eventually catching up as John is attacked by one of Alden's massive junk golems, which takes out the pursuing helicopter. During the fight, Cole has another choice. He can take the harder path and protect a group of injured civilians from an explosion, or he can use the explosion to make the fight easier, even if it means burning the civilians alive. Either way, after destroying the golem, Cole finally gets a chance to talk to John, who immediately makes it clear that he doesn't trust him. John knows Cole isn't with the agency because, in his words, Cole is too undisciplined and cocky. However, he also knows Cole wants the ray sphere, and John knows where it is, at the top of Alden's tower. Cole asks John what he should tell Moya, which leaves the man confused. When Cole reminds him that she's his wife, John reveals that he's never been married. Furthermore, he doesn't even know anybody named Moya. Cole then realizes that he's been played since the very beginning. While Moya may actually be FBI, she's definitely not who she says she is, and she has seemingly been using Cole to get to the Ray Sphere for her own reasons. John, meanwhile, wants the device destroyed, and Cole has every reason to agree. John tells Cole to find someone he can trust to help retrieve it, so Cole calls Zeke. While things are still a bit shaky due to the prison incident, Cole tells Zeke to meet him near the massive tower that the Dustmen have been building. When Zeke arrives, Cole explains that the Ray Sphere is at the top, and once they have it, they're getting out of the city. So, Zeke's immediately in. The two begin climbing the tower, with Cole fighting off Dustmen while finding ways to move Zeke up behind him. When the pair finally reach the top of the tower, they find the Ray Sphere sitting there, unguarded. Or so it seems. Alden quickly reveals himself, furious at both of them for what happened at the prison. Cole tells Zeke to hang back, and when he gives the word, grab the Ray Sphere while he keeps Alden busy. A battle then ensues atop the tower between Cole and Alden, while Zeke works to pull the Ray Sphere free from Tate's machinery. After a brutal fight, Zeke finally manages to yank it loose. Suddenly, to everyone's surprise, Kessler then arrives. Alden immediately turns his rage towards him, screaming that Kessler stole his childhood, his home, and his place as the rightful heir to the First Sons. Kessler, however, shows no sympathy whatsoever, simply mocking Alden for wasting his potential. Cole tells Zeke to run, but Zeke just stands there, frozen with the Ray Sphere in his hands. Cole tells him to put it down, but he doesn't. Instead, Zeke activates the Ray Sphere himself, fully prepared to kill thousands of people if it means gaining powers of his own. But nothing happens. No explosion, no transformation, no grand destiny. Just Zeke standing there with Cole judging his selfishness yet again. Kessler immediately realizes what went wrong and offers Zeke a deal. If Zeke gives the Ray Sphere to him, Kessler claims he can give him the power he wants. Then, after everything Cole has done for him, Zeke looks his best friend in the eye and goes with Kessler, betraying the one friend who has refused to abandon him despite all of his faults and failures. Alden, meanwhile, completely loses control. With the Ray Sphere stolen from him, he lashes out at everyone around him, tearing apart the tower in a fit of rage. The entire structure begins to collapse, and Cole is thrown from the wreckage, barely able to process what just happened. John calls shortly after, and he isn't exactly sympathetic. He told Cole to bring someone he could trust, and Cole brought Zeke. John points out that if either Kessler or Alden activates the Ray Sphere again, another 10,000 people could die in an instant. And that's before even getting into whatever Moya actually wants with it. So, with no time to waste, Cole goes after Alden to hopefully stop his rampage before searching for Kessler. Cole soon finds Alden tearing across a bridge toward the historic district, and Cole quickly catches up to him on the bridge. There, he finds the old man now surrounded with a massive shell of animated scrap, turning himself into a towering junk monster. Alden again rants about his birthright, his father, and how Kessler stole everything that was supposed to be his. He also points out that Cole and Kessler are the same, both taking what doesn't belong to them. The two proceed to battle across the bridge, with Alden hurling debris and tearing apart the structure around them. Eventually, Cole is able to defeat him, leaving Alden weakened and exposed. For a moment, Alden no longer seems like some unstoppable conduit warlord. He's just an old, broken man, howling about a life that Kessler stole from him. Then, he changes tactics, suggesting that he and Cole could work together to kill Kessler and take revenge on the person who ruined both of their lives. Cole hesitates to consider, and that moment is all Alden needs. He suddenly jumps off of the bridge into the water below. While no normal person could survive the fall, especially one as old as Alden, Tate's conduit abilities allow him to survive and get away. Cole reaches the historic district, where Kessler and the First Sons are preparing for the final battle. Before Cole can get to them, however, Kessler begins another test. First, he reveals that he has Trish captive. Second, he informs Cole about a series of bombs that he's set up throughout the city, and he forces him to race to disarm them. Finally, if Cole fails the test, Kessler threatens to kill Trish. After he disarms all of the bombs, however, Kessler gives him the real test. Cole is then given a choice. Trish is tied up on one roof. A group of doctors is tied up on another. Cole only has time to save one. For this version of events, Cole chooses the doctors, because that is what Trish would want him to do. She has spent the entire quarantine trying to keep people alive, and if Cole saves her while letting 6 doctors die, he knows that she would never forgive him. By the time Cole reaches Trish, he finds her mortally wounded. In her final moments, though, she tells him that she's proud of him. She knows that he tried to do the right thing, and despite everything that happened between them, she forgives him before dying in his arms. Unbeknownst to him, however, Kessler rigged the choice from the beginning. Even if Cole had tried to save Trish first, choosing her over the doctors selfishly, Kessler still makes sure that she dies. In that version, her final words to Cole are much colder. No matter what Cole does, he loses the love of his life, and Kessler gets what he wants. After Trish's death, Cole tears through the historic district, going after Kessler and the First Sons on a vengeful warpath. Unfortunately, he's interrupted by another one of Kessler's disasters. John contacts Cole to tell him about several toxin balloons floating over the city, which Kessler is using to spray Sasha's tar across the streets, driving civilians insane and turning the historic district into an even bigger nightmare than it already was. Cole has to disable each balloon by taking out the drones protecting it, shutting down its shield, and detaching its ballast before the gas spreads any further. As he does so, Zeke tries calling him. He apologizes, saying that he didn't know what would happen with Trish, but Cole has nothing to say to him. Meanwhile, Sasha continues reaching out telepathically through Cole's contact with the tar, offering to help him if he'll just kill Kessler for her. Moya also contacts Cole again, trying one last time to convince him to bring her the Ray Sphere. She tells him that this is bigger than him, bigger than Empire City, maybe even bigger than the country. In her words, the Ray Sphere is not just a weapon of mass destruction, it's a weapon of ultimate destruction. Cole, however, shuts her down, telling her the deal is off and to find another lapdog. With the toxin balloons disabled, John decides that it's time to go on the offensive. He has rigged an old police helicopter with surveillance gear, and with Cole riding along, he believes that they can track the Ray Sphere's exact location. Cole meets John near the old Ashford building, and the two take to the air, scanning the historic district while First Sons open fire from the rooftops. Cole protects the chopper as John follows the Ray Sphere's energy signature, and eventually, they trace it to a pier. There, the pair find the Ray Sphere, and Cole is given one final choice. He can destroy it, ending the threat once and for all, or he can use it to make himself even stronger. After everything it's done, the blast, the plague, Sasha, Alden, Trish, Zeke, and thousands already dead, Cole destroys it. Had he chosen differently, Cole could have activated the Ray Sphere for himself, sacrificing even more people in exchange for enough power to become nearly unstoppable. But, luckily, that's not the path this story follows. The Ray Sphere collapses into itself, releasing a final burst of energy that pulls John in with it. In an instant, John is torn apart, and the device that ruined Cole MacGrath's life disappears with him. Kessler then contacts Cole one last time to express his disappointment. The Ray Sphere was the catalyst for Cole's powers, and using it could have made him even stronger. Kessler says that he wouldn't have made the same choice, and Cole simply tells him that he's not like him. While he admits that it took him a while, Cole finally realizes that this is no longer about him, or what he wants. It's about keeping the city safe. And once Kessler's dead, Cole won't let anyone else threaten it again. Kessler simply tells him to meet at the Stanton building, where it all began. At Ground Zero, the crater left behind by the blast, Cole confronts Kessler for the last time. Kessler fights with powers that look disturbingly similar to Cole's, only more advanced and far more controlled. He teleports, fires electricity, summons projections, and moves like he knows every move Cole has before Cole even thinks to use it. The fight pushes Cole to his limit, and he's eventually overwhelmed. Kessler nearly kills him, but before he can finish the job, Zeke appears and shoots him, giving Cole the opening he needs. Cole gets back to his feet and continues the fight, eventually overpowering Kessler and bringing him down. As Kessler dies, he grabs Cole once more and forces his memories into his mind. Cole is then shocked to learn the chilling truth. Kessler is not just the leader of the First Sons. He's not just a powerful conduit. He is Cole MacGrath, or at least a version of him from the future. In Kessler's timeline, Cole eventually married Trish and had a family, but when an unstoppable being known only as the Beast appeared, Cole wasn't ready to fight it. Instead of standing his ground, he ran, taking Trish and their children and trying to escape while the world burned behind them. But the Beast kept coming. Eventually, it found them, killed his family, and destroyed everything. Broken by his failure, Cole traveled back in time and took control of the First Sons. He reshaped the organization, created the Ray Sphere, and spent 20 years forcing his younger self through every possible tragedy so that when the Beast arrived again, this time, Cole would be ready. The explosion, the quarantine, Sasha, Alden, Zeke's betrayal, Trish's death, all of it was Kessler. He didn't destroy Cole's life because he was evil. He did it because he believed it was the only way to create the version of himself that could save the world. As the vision ends, Kessler dies, leaving Cole with the truth and nothing else. In the end, Empire City has survived, but is left sick, broken, and still trapped under quarantine. The Ray Sphere is gone, Trish is dead, John's gone, Moya's vanished, and Zeke's betrayal still hangs between them, even after he helped in the final fight. On top of everything, somewhere in the future, the Beast is coming. Cole has stopped Kessler, but Kessler was never the real threat. He was just the warning. Sometime after Kessler's defeat, Empire City remains locked down under quarantine. The government is still trying to cover up what happened, the plague is still spreading, and Cole is still trapped inside the city with the memory of Trish's death hanging over him. Over in the historic district, Cole visits Trish's grave, still mourning over everything Kessler took from him. A police officer named Warden Harms eventually finds him there and tries to offer some comfort, but neither of them have much time to grieve. The First Sons are still out there, and they launch an attack that Cole and Warden are forced to fight back. Even worse, unbeknownst to them, something much more dangerous is lurking behind the scenes. As it turns out, before the blast, Moya had been working with Kessler during the final stages of the Ray Sphere's development, even helping to fund his research. At an old First Sons facility in the Neon District, Kessler had shown her one of his test subjects, a man named David Warner. David had been exposed to the Ray Sphere over and over again, far more times than any person should have been able to survive. Each exposure unlocked a new ability inside of him, but it also left him unstable, monstrous, and dependent on neuroelectricity to stay alive. In the present, it's revealed that Moya has Alden Tate in custody, and she begins running similar tests on him as well. Meanwhile, Cole finally reunites with Zeke and tells him the truth about Kessler. He explains that Kessler was a future version of himself, that he created the Ray Sphere, arranged the blast, and forced Cole through everything to prepare him for the arrival of the Beast. Zeke doesn't fully know how to respond to that, but he does eventually open up about what happened after he left with Kessler. He didn't get any powers or any answers, he didn't even get treated like a real partner. Kessler simply locked him in a room with a bed, a television, and a bucket, occasionally stumbling in drunk before eventually leaving after thanking Zeke for being such a good friend. At the time, Zeke didn't understand what that meant. Now, he realizes Kessler wasn't actually thanking him, he was saying goodbye. Despite everything between them, Zeke tries to comfort Cole, telling him that despite Kessler's origin, he was still just some guy. He may have manipulated Cole's future, but that doesn't mean he controls who Cole becomes. Cole is still the one that gets to decide what kind of person he is. This nice moment is naturally interrupted when Moya suddenly begins moving troops into Empire City, claiming she is doing what needs to be done to regain control. In reality, her operation is much darker than that, as she intends to capture Cole, Sasha, and any other conduits she can to use for her own purposes. Moya knows that Sasha has a connection to Cole, so her troops move in, take her into custody, and bring her to Steel Harbor, where they begin extracting Sasha's mind control tar to use against Cole. Around the same time, David escapes from the old First Sons facility. He returns to his home in North Beach, only to find his wife dead from a drug overdose. David lays her and their daughter's body on a bed, surrounded by crucifixes and candles, and he flashes back to the life he lost before Kessler turned him into a weapon. Then, he begins hunting Cole. Because David can sense people on a genetic level, he recognizes Cole as Kessler. He doesn't understand the full truth, but to him, Cole and Kessler represent the same thing: the man who destroyed his life. So, after dealing with some soldiers who show up to the house, the mutated David decides to kill him. Moya, meanwhile, continues her public cover-up. As soldiers flood the streets, the media reports that the military is demolishing unsafe buildings and relocating survivors to security camps. In reality, people are being killed, experimented on, and dragged deeper into Moya's operation. She contacts Cole and makes her intentions clear. She sent the troops into Empire City to show him how serious she is, and if he doesn't cooperate by morning, then the gloves come off. Cole considers giving himself up if it means protecting the people around him, but before he can make any decision, David attacks a police station and nearly kills Zeke. Cole arrives just in time to save him, but David immediately turns his attention on Cole, beating him brutally while referring to him as Kessler. Moya redeploys soldiers to stop David, not because she cares about Cole, but because she needs him alive to replicate the effects of the ray sphere. Unfortunately, David proves almost impossible to contain. Several soldiers die trying to slow him down, and Cole is forced to lure him away from the station. Moya eventually warns Cole to get out of the area, then has the building bombed, burying David under the rubble. Cole survives, but he can still hear David beneath the wreckage, scraping around and trying to claw his way out. This pushes Cole further into isolation. He tells Zeke that he needs the keys to his apartment so he can sleep somewhere away from everyone else. If David wants to kill him so badly, Cole doesn't want anyone else getting caught in the middle. At Steel Harbor, Moya explains the situation to a general. David was blasted with the ray sphere dozens of times, but the experiments had one serious flaw. His body now needs neuroelectricity to survive, which means he isn't just hunting Cole for revenge, he's starving. And to him, Cole's electricity-infused body looks like a Thanksgiving feast. Since every attempt to capture Cole by force has failed, Moya decides to change tactics. If brute force won't work, she'll instead attack his heart. Back at Zeke's apartment, Cole falls asleep while looking at old pictures of Trish. In his dream, he sees Kessler again, who brings him to the graves of his wife and daughters from the future. Kessler reminds Cole that the beast is coming, and that the road ahead will be filled with graves. If Cole is going to do what needs to be done, he has to ignore them, no matter whose bones they hold. Cole then wakes up shaken, unsure of how much more he can take. Bad suddenly turns to worse as soldiers surround Zeke's apartment and throw in a gas bomb. As the gas fills the room, Cole begins to have hallucinations of Trish, who blames him for her death. Sasha reaches out to him telepathically, warning him that what he's seeing isn't real. Moya is using Sasha's extracted tar in the gas to confuse him. Sasha tells Cole to get out, and he escapes by jumping from the apartment window. Unfortunately, the hallucinations don't stop, and Moya's troops are waiting outside. Zeke and Warden Harms arrive just in time to see Cole captured and flown away. Nearby, David emerges from the rubble and sees it too, and he watches exactly where Cole is being taken. Moya then brings Cole to a ship that she's using as a makeshift lab at Steel Harbor, where doctors try to keep him awake while she prepares to interrogate him. She offers him a chance to work for the military, but when Cole refuses, she reveals a device that can be implanted at the base of his skull, forcing him to obey whether he wants to or not. Back in the Warren, Zeke, Warden Harms, and a group of other police officers prepare to rescue Cole. At the same time, 2 reporters sneak into Empire City and meet survivors living in the sewers, hoping to expose what is really happening inside the quarantine. Meanwhile, Sasha breaks free at Steel Harbor, killing guards and fighting her way towards Cole on her own path for revenge against Moya for what she's done to her. David arrives soon after, tearing through soldiers as he follows Cole's scent as well. With Sasha's help, Cole manages to escape his captors. After sharing a less than consensual thank you kiss with her, Cole starts blasting holes through the ship while Moya's operation collapses around him. Zeke and Harms arrive outside, but so does David, who catches up to Cole just before he can get away. David then attacks Cole with everything he has, still blaming him for the deaths of his wife and his daughter. He remembers the last time he heard his wife's voice, crying on the phone and begging to find him, and that memory has become the only thing that he can hold on to. Before David can kill Cole, Moya decides to deploy several military conduits that she had been experimenting on from their stasis pods. Unfortunately, they're not quite ready yet. While the doctors warn her that they'll probably die before even taking a step, Moya sends them anyway, ordering them to make sure Cole is not harmed while everyone else is expendable. The military conduits attack David, giving Cole time to recover and slip away, but David begins tearing through them. He absorbs their neuroelectricity, killing them one by one and growing stronger in the process. Inside the ship, Sasha hunts for Moya, only for Moya to ambush her with a steel pipe. The two fight as the entire operation spirals out of control. Soldiers die, the reporters flee with evidence, and the truth about Empire City finally starts slipping out from under the government's cover story. Outside, Zeke helps Cole back to his feet, and Cole watches David killing the last of Moya's conduits. For a moment, Cole thinks about his life before all of this. He remembers dropping out of college just a few credits short of graduation because a professor mistreated one of his friends. He remembers walking away from his father, from jobs, from responsibility, and even from himself. Now, he's done walking away. Cole then gets up and charges towards David. The ensuing fight tears through Steel Harbor, with David hurling Cole through the ship and Cole just trying to survive. Moya's general finally realizes how far she's gone and threatens to shut the entire operation down, so Moya pulls out a pistol and shoots him. David goes after Cole again, but Cole, realizing he's physically outmatched, spots a canister of jet fuel and tosses it at him. The ensuing blast sets David aflame. Then, with Moya arriving nearby, Cole calls down a massive lightning storm and finally brings David down. As David dies, he sees a vision of his wife and daughter. He apologizes to them, asking for forgiveness, but they tell him there's nothing to forgive. They love him. And with that, David Warner is gone for good. Moya then tries one last time to threaten Cole, telling him that with one phone call, she could put a $30 million bounty on his head that even his own parents would sell him out for. Meanwhile, the ship begins to sink around them. Moya becomes trapped, and Cole tries to help her, but she tells him that there's no time. Due to his electrical attributes, the water will kill him if he stays. So, Cole runs, leaving Moya behind as the ship goes down with her inside. Seemingly, Moya drowns in the waters. 2 days later, the truth finally begins reaching the outside world. Footage from the reporters shows Cole fighting David and the military conduits, as well as the conditions inside of Empire City, where the sick and injured have been forced to live in the sewers. The news reports that the sinking ship claimed hundreds of lives, that Moya was operating without authorization from her superiors or the military, and that Cole MacGrath is still at large. Unfortunately, the CDC then confirms that the quarantine around Empire City will remain in place for the foreseeable future. In the Warren, Zeke asks Cole if he thinks David is dead for good. Cole simply states that he really hopes so. Cole then receives a call from a woman who introduces herself as Lucy Quo. She tells him that she worked with John White in the NSA, and that they need to talk. Lucy Quo somehow knows about the beast's ensuing arrival, and she tells Cole that if he wants any chance of stopping it, he needs to leave Empire City and travel with her south to New Marais. There, she claims, they'll find Dr. Sebastian Wolf, a former First Son scientist who assisted in creating the race fair technology originally. According to Quo, Wolf has found a way to amplify Cole's powers, which should give him the strength he needs to face the beast when it inevitably arrives. Cole agrees to go with, and of course, Zeke Dunbar tags along as well. Zeke is understandably excited about the trip, seeing it as a chance to leave Empire City behind and relax in New Marais for a while. Cole, however, makes it very clear that this is not a vacation. They're going to meet Wolf, power him up, and then get back to Empire City before the beast arrives. Unfortunately, the beast has other plans. Before they can leave Empire City by boat, an enormous explosion suddenly tears through the city, pulling various citizens into a swirling vortex left in its wake. Cole rushes towards the disturbance and finds the creature Kessler warned him about, a massive, burning humanoid cutting through Empire City no matter what stands in its way. Cole immediately attacks, throwing everything he has at the beast. He hits it with lightning projectiles, chases it through the city, and even calls down an ionic storm. But none of it is enough. Cole uses all that's left of his energy in a final blast, which leaves him unconscious and drained of his powers. The beast simply rebuilds itself and continues its rampage. Cole falls into the water, and by the time Zeke and Quo pull him out, the fight is over and they've lost. The beast is still alive, but Empire City is dead. With no other option, Cole, Zeke, and Quo escape by boat and flee south towards New Marais. Behind them, the city that started everything is left completely destroyed. Kessler's warning comes true. The beast was real, and despite everything Cole went through to prepare for it, he still wasn't strong enough. While the trip to New Marais gives the new team a little time to regroup, it isn't much. The beast is already moving down the coast to follow them, destroying towns as it goes, and Quo continues tracking its progress. Meanwhile, Zeke helps Cole build a new weapon to focus his weakened powers, a metal melee device they call the Amp. When they finally reach New Marais, they find the city already locked down. A private army called the Militia now controls the streets, and they have blockades set up to prevent anyone from getting in or out. The militia is led by Joseph Bertrand III, a wealthy, powerful local figure who has built his entire movement around spreading fear of conduits, mutants, and anyone else he can label as a threat to the city's purity. Cole, Zeke, and Lucy switch to a smaller boat to sneak their way into the city through the swamps, but are soon stopped by the militia blockade. Cole decides to introduce himself to them and rushes towards their soldiers on land to take them out, though even that comes with a moral choice almost immediately. He can carefully lower a bridge and spare a nearby village, or he can overcharge the machinery and blow the entire place sky high to wipe out the militia more easily. For this version of events, obviously, Cole shows restraint, destroying the militia forces without sacrificing the civilians around them. With the path clear, the group makes their way deeper into New Marais. As they enter the city, Cole remembers having been there years earlier with Zeke. Back then, New Marais was basically an urban explorer's dream. Lawless, colorful, full of abandoned buildings after a major flood, and just dangerous enough to be fun. Now, that same lawlessness has been taken over by Bertrand's militia, who patrol the streets looking for deviants to punish. Unfortunately, that same militia is also looking for the only man who can help Cole defeat the beast, Dr. Wolf. Cole and Quo rush to beat them to Wolf's lab, but arrive too late, finding the militia already attacking him. Cole fights through them and eventually finds Dr. Wolf among the wreckage. Wolf, who worked with Kessler and immediately recognizes Cole, explains that he has developed a device called the Ray Field Inhibitor, or RFI, which may be capable of destroying the beast. Wolf gives him the device, but it still needs to be powered up. To do that, Cole needs blast cores, concentrated pieces of ray field energy that can amplify his powers and charge the device. By absorbing them, Cole can regain what the beast drained from him, and hopefully become strong enough to use the RFI when the time comes. Cole absorbs a blast core that he found, but the energy overwhelms him and he passes out. While he's unconscious, the militia attacks again. Zeke rescues Cole from the attack, but Wolf is taken away, forcing Quo to give chase. While she tracks Wolf's location, Quo fills Cole in on her history. She reveals that even before the blast, the NSA had a vague idea of what conduits were. They also determined that conduits carried a particular gene, one that both John White and herself carried, leading to each of them going undercover, John in Empire City and Lucy in New Marais. When Wolf's trail goes cold, Quo decides to have Cole ambush Bertrand himself while he's making a rare appearance in front of the St. Ignatius Church. That night, Bertrand gives one of his rallies, announcing Cole MacGrath's arrival in New Marais and claiming that his militia are the only thing standing between the city's inhabitants and the freaks. Suddenly, as if on cue, a mutated, corrupted conduit then appears and attacks, interrupting the rally before Cole even can. Cole follows Bertrand as he escapes the attack via car. While Cole gets atop the vehicle, he doesn't get much out of the commander before he's knocked off and subsequently attacked by a militia chopper. While Cole destroys the helicopter, Bertrand unfortunately gets away in the chaos. Quo eventually manages to track Wolf's location, and Cole is able to fight his way through various roadblocks to free the doctor from a militia convoy. Unfortunately, while Cole and Quo try to get Wolf out of danger, the militia attacks once again, ramming their vehicle and sending it crashing towards the water. Cole survives, but Wolf is killed in the chaos, and Quo is taken away by Bertrand's men. As Cole searches for Lucy near the swamps, he's attacked by swamp monsters, and eventually meets a woman who's also fighting them, a fellow conduit named Nyx. Nyx has been waging her own one-woman war against the militia from the swamps around New Marais. Her abilities allow her to control a black, oily, napalm-like substance, teleporting through it and setting entire groups of enemies ablaze. Luckily for Cole, she's a fan of his, which is enough to put the two on the same team. Nyx offers to give Cole a blast core that she found if he helps her take down some militia. Afterward, she holds up her end of the deal and hands it over before teleporting away. Cole then meets back up with Zeke, who's got a surprise for him. When Cole arrives, Zeke reveals that he's joined the militia as a double agent. Of course, Cole is immediately skeptical thanks to the last time Zeke got involved, but he insists that this time is different. He's just posing as one of Bertrand's men to gather information. Zeke then watches over Cole while he absorbs Nyx's blast core. Once again, the energy overwhelms Cole's body, knocking him unconscious as his powers begin to grow. When he wakes up, Zeke is still there, and true to his word, Cole isn't in a militia cage. Using his new abilities, Cole continues working through the city as Zeke's double agent routine starts to pay off. Eventually, Zeke learns that Bertrand is holding Quo at an old cane plantation being used as a prison for the militia's so-called deviants. Nyx proposes rescuing Quo by loading a streetcar with explosives, then ramming it through the front gate, blowing the whole place open and using the fire as a distraction. While this would probably work, it would also burn every prisoner inside alive, which is generally frowned upon. Cole's other option is to free police officers that the militia has been rounding up to recruit their help in fighting against them. Naturally, the hero path sees Cole choosing this much cleaner plan. Eventually, Cole finds Quo, but unfortunately she's far from being held comfortably. Bertrand had strapped her into one of Wolf's machines and tortured her for days, draining her, injecting her, and forcing her body through some kind of sick experimentation. Cole gets her free, but whatever Bertrand did to her changed her. Quo is barely able to walk, but luckily Zeke arrives with a getaway truck ready, and the group escapes the facility with Lucy Quo alive. Afterwards, Quo is finally able to sleep, and while she recovers, Cole turns his attention back to the city, starting with getting the power back on in Ascension Parish. As he restores another transformer, he comes across a young woman being attacked by a corrupted. Cole saves her, and she tells him that they need to find her uncle, since he fights the militia and isn't afraid of them. Her uncle turns out to be Roscoe LaRoche, the leader of a rebel group trying to protect the people of New Marais without joining Bertrand's crusade. Unfortunately, LaRoche doesn't exactly welcome Cole with open arms. To him, Cole is the demon of Empire City, the very same monster that Bertrand has been warning the entire city about. However, when a massive corrupted creature attacks, Cole helps fight it off and protects LaRoche's people. While the rebels still don't fully trust him, after seeing what they can do, LaRoche admits that Cole has his attention. Around this time, Quo finally wakes up, though she's obviously not the same woman who arrived in New Marais. Her powers have now fully manifested, giving her control over ice. She tries to play it off, even joking about her new look, but her powers are unstable. When she touches Cole, she accidentally freezes his face. Quo is left embarrassed and overwhelmed by her inability to turn off her freezing touch, but Cole tries to console her, telling her that he understands what she's going through. Quo simply snaps back that he doesn't. Cole's powers came instantly from a surprise explosion. What Bertrand did to her was slow, deliberate, and cruel. He didn't just activate her powers, he broke her down piece by piece until she came out the other side as something she barely recognizes. Still, the pair realize that if she and Cole are going to fight Bertrand together, she needs to learn how to control what she can do. So Cole helps train her, guiding her through her new abilities until she starts to get a handle on them. Afterwards, Cole finds and absorbs another blast core, with Zeke watching his back once again. Zeke also reveals that he's been tracking the machine Bertrand used on Quo behind the scenes. He believes that the militia is moving it around the city, which means it should end up near them eventually. Shortly after, Nyx contacts Cole again, offering to show him something that she believes he needs to see. They meet up, and she takes him deep into the swamp, back to the place where she grew up. Nyx explains that her home was a world of thieves, outcasts, and people poor enough that the rest of New Marais barely acknowledged them. Her mother was one of those people, until Bertrand arrived with a ray sphere. Just like Empire City, the blast left behind a crater, but unlike Empire City, this one was hidden out in the swamp, far away from anyone important enough for the city to care. Bertrand gathered people whose deaths he thought would go unnoticed and used them as fuel for his own activation. Unfortunately, Nyx watched her family die in the blast. She only survived because she had the conduit gene, which allowed her to absorb the ray field energy, gaining her powers from it. Bertrand also curiously survived at the center of the blast, which means the same thing should have happened to him. With this revelation, Cole realizes exactly why Nyx has it out for Bertrand. It isn't just because of his war on conduits, it's also personal. Back in the city, Zeke calls a meeting with Cole, Quo, and Nyx. Thanks to his military disguise, he's learned that the machine Bertrand used on Quo is some kind of power transfer device, capable of copying Conduit's abilities into others, and it's being kept somewhere inside of Fort Felipe. Quo wants it destroyed. After what Bertrand did to her, she sees the machine as nothing but another tragedy waiting to happen. Nyx, however, disagrees. To her, the transfer device is an opportunity. If it can move powers from one conduit to another, then Cole could take her abilities, or Quo's, or both. They could potentially become stronger together, and that strength might be exactly what they need to take on the beast's arrival. While Cole is caught between them, he points out that they actually have to get inside the fort and retrieve the device before they can decide what to do with it. Since Fort Felipe is too large and too heavily defended for Cole to take alone, Quo suggests working with LaRoche and the rebels. If they want LaRoche's help, however, they'll need to earn it. To gain their trust, Cole steals some medicine Bertrand and the militia had been hoarding. Had he gone the darker route, he could have followed Nyx's plan instead, dressing her up as militia and letting her terrorize the rebels so Cole could swoop in afterward as their supposed savior. Either way, the plan works. LaRoche's people get what they need, and the rebels agree to join the assault on Fort Felipe. With everyone in place, the attack then begins. Cole and Quo open the way by taking out the fort's defenses, allowing LaRoche and his men to charge in. Nyx joins the fight as well, though she's still focused less on strategy and more on making sure something explodes every 5 seconds. Eventually, Cole reaches the transfer device, which the militia has dragged out into the open. Quo wants it destroyed, Nyx wants it controlled. Cole realizes that if he can use the device to take one of their powers, it may give him exactly the boost he needs to keep charging the RFI and prepare for the beast. So, despite Quo's fear and Nyx's eagerness, Cole decides to use it. For the good path, he chooses Quo, which Nyx doesn't take very well. In her mind, Cole picking Quo feels like another betrayal, another person choosing someone cleaner and more respectable over her. She storms off, furious, while Quo reluctantly agrees to the transfer. Cole and Quo then strap themselves into the machine, and the device begins tearing through them. The process is painful, but it works, allowing Cole to absorb part of Quo's ice abilities. His electricity now mixes with ice, giving him new powers and more ways to fight. Unfortunately, before they can destroy the transfer device, Bertrand's men try to extract him by helicopter. Cole shoots the chopper down, but Bertrand survives the crash. When Cole approaches the wreckage, expecting to find the militia leader's body, something massive erupts from the water instead. This enormous, disgusting, and very obviously not pure human creature is then revealed to be none other than Bertrand himself. Joseph Bertrand III, the man who built his entire public image around protecting New Marais from monsters, turns out to have been one himself all along. When he used a ray sphere to activate his powers, standing at the center of the blast that killed Nyx's family, instead of becoming the chosen savior he imagined, he became the exact kind of creature that he now preaches against. Cole drives him back, but the mutated Bertrand ultimately escapes into Flood Town. Cole follows him there, where the situation has gotten even worse than the rest of New Marais. The district is half submerged, corrupted are roaming the streets, and the people still living there are dying from the plague. Zeke and LaRoche set up a makeshift camp for the sick, but all those who try to reach it keep getting attacked by swamp monsters. Zeke builds some defenses around the camp, but they don't have enough power to keep them running, so Cole charges the equipment and helps protect the camp when the corrupted attack yet again. The group are joined in fighting off the corrupted by a team of private military contractors from a company known as Vermach 88. These ice soldiers seem to be on the rebels' side, but after the battle is over, they quickly reveal that they're simply after LaRoche's blast core, a blast core that he neglected to mention up until now. Cole helps fight off the ice soldiers, and LaRoche hands over the blast core as repayment. Around the same time, Quo makes a major discovery in Wolf's notes. The RFI wasn't originally just a weapon to stop the beast. Wolf designed it to cure the plague. According to Wolf, the plague is caused by ray field radiation. If the RFI can wipe out that radiation, then it should wipe out the disease as well. While this initially seems like good news, the group quickly realized that the plague was caused by ray field radiation, and ray field radiation came from the ray sphere blast, which Cole was at the center of. In other words, the same event that gave Cole his powers may also be the root of the plague wiping out countless infected across the country. Cole proceeds to absorb LaRoche's blast core, forcing his body through another painful surge of Rayfield energy. When he wakes up, he tries the RFI, hoping that this might finally be enough, but it unfortunately isn't. Soon after, Quo calls Cole to meet her, Zeke, and Nyx back at a freight car that they've been using as a makeshift base of operations. There, Nyx reveals that Bertrand not only creates the corrupted, but he also bonds with them, leading them like a bear does its cubs. Quo thinks that if she can get hard evidence of what Bertrand is doing, they can turn the entire city against him and free more of the people that he's been experimenting on. Nyx, on the other hand, wants to bond with the monsters herself. She explains that she'd actually done it once before with one of the swamp creatures, but the baby corrupted that she bonded with died protecting her. Nyx believes that if she can build her own army of corrupted, they can throw them right back at Bertrand. So once again, Cole is stuck between Quo and Nyx. But before they can even do anything, Cole needs to bring power back to the gasworks. Unfortunately, the Vermach have taken over much of the district, so getting the grid running again means Cole must cut through ice soldiers while Zeke guides him through the machinery. Once the power is back online, Cole is suddenly locked inside of a cage designed to block his electricity. He's then surrounded by militia soldiers, led by none other than their leader, Joseph Bertrand III himself. The commander proceeds to make him an offer. The beast has arrived in New Marais, and Bertrand admits that he can't stop it alone. If Cole joins him, they can save the city together and be remembered as heroes. Cole, knowing that Bertrand will turn on him the moment he's no longer useful, refuses the partnership. Bertrand decides that if Cole won't join him, then he has no place in the world at all. The militia then opens fire, and with Cole's powers blocked, things get bad fast. Luckily, before they can finish him off, Zeke appears to fight off the attackers, saving Cole and proudly announcing himself as a man of action. After the fight, Cole finally apologizes to Zeke for how he's been treating him. While Zeke may have screwed him over back in Empire City, since then, he's kept showing up. He's watched Cole's back, gone undercover in the militia, found Quo, helped track the transfer device, and now just saved Cole's life. Finally, for the first time in a while, the two feel like brothers again. Before leaving, Zeke mentions another lead. One of his militia contacts believes Bertrand has a blast core hidden in one of his warehouses. Cole checks this warehouse, but instead of finding a core, he finds property deeds pointing him towards several more of Bertrand's buildings. So naturally, he has to search all of those too. Eventually, Cole finds Bertrand's briefcase, and with it, a much clearer picture of what the commander has been doing. Not only has Bertrand been creating monsters to scare New Moray into supporting the militia, but he's planning to sell the living superweapons to whoever can pay for them. If those shipments leave New Moray, Bertrand won't just be ruining one city, he'll be starting a global arms race built around manufactured conduits. Strangely though, Cole finds that it's clearly not about the money for Bertrand. In fact, he's donating all of it to good causes. Whatever Bertrand is truly up to, Cole realizes that he just can't see the bigger picture yet. Cole then recovers and absorbs the blast core, bringing him one step closer to being able to use the RFI. Before he can get back to focusing on that though, Zeke learns that Bertrand is loading something major onto cargo ships in the harbor. He believes that this may be the first shipment of Bertrand's do-it-yourself conduits. They realize that if those ships leave, the nightmare officially gets loose. So Cole heads to the waterfront to disable the ships by sabotaging their electric anchor winches. While the plan seems simple enough, it turns out to be anything but. As soon as Cole takes down one of the winches, he's shocked to see someone he's long thought was dead. John White. Cole is left utterly shocked. The last time he saw John, the ray sphere had collapsed in on itself and tore him apart. John explains that he was dead, at least for a while. He remembers the ray sphere ripping him apart atom by atom, but somehow, some part of him lingered, and he was able to pull himself back together, which he admits was very difficult to do. He then tells Cole that he wants to show him something, before touching his head and vanishing. As he does so, he imbues in Cole the ability to see the plague within those infected with it. John then summons him to a plague ward and explains that the disease is not just contained in New Moray. It's being spread across the entire East Coast. Within weeks, millions will be infected, and the government has no way to stop it. Luckily, John says that they can. He points Cole towards one of the plague victims, a woman carrying the conduit gene. Cole tries to heal her, but he can't. She's too far gone. John then explains that he has the ability to activate her gene, as well as all of the other dormant conduits, but not without cost. John then shows him, and after his body is surrounded by flame, a bright light flashes. When Cole recovers from the light, he comes to find a blast has taken out the entire ward, every human included. The woman then walks out towards him, completely fine, with the plague gone from her body. She thanks Cole before flying away, revealing that she obtained powers in the process. While John thinks that it's too late for humanity, he asks Cole to help him save all of the conduits that they can. Meanwhile, Zeke gets another lead on Bertrand. With the ship sabotaged, Bertrand is holed up in the Malloy building, waiting for a helicopter that, thanks to Zeke, is never going to arrive. LaRoche and his men prepare an ambush using spotlights that Zeke built, hoping that they can weaken Bertrand if he transforms again. Cole heads to the building's helipad and confronts Bertrand face to face once again. This time, Bertrand finally explains what he's really doing. He's selling his forced conduits all around the world because he wants humanity to experience the horror of them firsthand. He wants people everywhere to fear conduits so badly that they rise up and wipe them out completely. He's not trying to profit from conduits, he's trying to provoke their extinction. Bertrand insists that conduits are an abomination, a product of science, greed, and sin. Cole pushes back, telling him that powers do not make someone a monster. The person using them does. Bertrand then transforms again, and Cole jumps onto the back of Zeke's truck as they try to lure him into LaRoche's ambush. The fight tears through the streets, with Bertrand charging after them while Cole blasts him and the rebels hit him with spotlights whenever they can. Eventually, Cole brings him down. Bertrand then dies in his monstrous form, and with him, the militia begins to fall apart. Cole finally gives Joseph Bertrand III what he wanted. He's no longer a conduit. With Bertrand gone, Zeke has one more lead. Another blast core has been spotted near the docks, being carried by the leader of a group of Vermont soldiers. Cole heads after it, but before he does, Zeke begins to collapse from coughing. Using the ability to see the plague given to him when John touched him, Cole confirms the worst. His best friend is infected with the plague. Zeke admits that he had been hiding it, since Cole already had enough to worry about, and because if the RFI works, he might still be cured. Cole realizes the truth though. His friend doesn't have much time left. So Cole goes after the final core. However, the Vermont have it encased in ice at the top of a tower, using the whole structure like a lightning rod. Zeke helps from a distance, sending Cole valve locations so he can release heat and break through the ice. In the middle of a storm, Cole fights his way through the ice soldiers and finally retrieves the core. With that, he finally has enough power to use the RFI. Cole then returns to Zeke, and before he absorbs the last core, the two share a drink. Zeke says that there are basically two kinds of people in the world. People like him, who sit on the couch and deal with whatever happens, and people like Cole, who go out and do something about it. After a toast, Cole proves it by absorbing the final blast core. When Cole awakens, Zeke tells him that he's heard from Nyx, who went back to the swamp to see how many of her monsters survived the beast's arrival. The answer, unfortunately, is not many. Quo and Nyx then both come to watch Cole activate the RFI, expecting this to be the moment where they finally kill the beast. But Cole has to tell them the truth. The beast is John White. He explains that John is using his powers like a ray sphere, activating potential conduits and curing them of the plague, while killing everyone nearby who doesn't carry the gene. Cole also reveals that John asked him for help. Nyx is furious at John for having wiped out her babies and tells Cole to do something about it. So he does. Cole then grabs the RFI and attempts to activate it. The device then fires, but unfortunately, the RFI doesn't just target the beast. Cole, Quo, and Nyx feel it too. Zeke then knocks the RFI out of Cole's hands, deactivating it and allowing his conduit friends to recover. Cole realizes that if he uses the fully charged RFI, it'll kill every conduit, not just John White. If he doesn't though, as Zeke points out, millions will die from the plague and the beast instead. Despite being the voice of reason up till this point, Quo then snaps. She argues that John's method has been proven to work, while they don't even know for sure if the RFI will cure the plague. If humanity is going to die anyway, then maybe John's right. Conduits are immune to the plague, so they might as well make sure as many as possible survive to inherit the world. Nyx, however, refuses to accept that. She doesn't care what happens to herself or anyone as long as the beast dies. Cole is then left with the choice Kessler spent his entire life trying to prepare him for. Sacrifice the few to save the many, or sacrifice the many to save the few. Cole then decides to fulfill his karmic destiny by using the RFI to save humanity. Quo, terrified of dying, turns against them and leaves. While the RFI is damaged, Zeke thinks that he can rig a replacement power regulator using electrical equipment throughout the city. Zeke then begins setting up his makeshift regulators around the city, with LaRoche and his rebels helping however they can. The idea is simple enough. Cole will use the city's electrical grid to charge the RFI manually, hopefully giving it enough power to fire before the beast destroys New Marais. The execution is less simple though, because John has transformed into his beast form to wreak havoc on the city. To make matters even worse, Quo's now sided with him. Still though, Cole and Nyx head out to charge the RFI, while LaRoche and his men try to hold off the beast. As Cole pushes through the city, the beast tears through everything in his path. LaRoche and his rebels fight anyway, buying Cole whatever time they can. Cole keeps moving, fending off both the beast and Quo's attacks while charging each regulator and feeding more power into the RFI. Nyx fights alongside him, and for once, her destructive streak is pointed exactly where it needs to be. She doesn't care that the RFI will kill her too, she just wants the beast dead. Nyx then throws herself into the monstrous conduit, trying to hold him back long enough for Cole to finish charging the device with a massive, self-destructive explosion. It's not enough to destroy the beast, but it does temporarily stop him, giving Cole the opening he needs to continue fully charging the RFI. Unfortunately, Nyx doesn't survive the process. Ultimately, for someone who seemed to want Cole to make the most selfish decisions, she goes out making the most selfless choice she possibly could, dying to save a world that she never really found a place in. Although he's shaken by her sacrifice, Cole keeps going, calling Zeke to inform him of Nyx's death. Forced to finish the job alone, Cole manages to charge the RFI and brings the device to full power. Before activating it though, Cole notices that the beast is moving again. He then takes the device and goes to face John one last time. After a final battle, in which Cole flies through the air, firing electrical bolts at the beast, John is incapacitated once again. Quo arrives and tells Cole that he made the right choice, that Nyx made the right choice. She explains that she was just scared, and Cole admits that he is too. Quo then instructs Cole to activate the device, and he follows her instruction. Cole steps aside and activates the fully charged RFI. A massive wave of energy then erupts from New Marais and spreads outward, racing across the city, then the country, then the world. The beast dies. The corrupted die. Quo dies. Every activated conduit and countless others carrying the gene are killed. And Cole MacGrath dies with them. Zeke claims that it's worth it though. The plague instantly vanishes. Every infected person still alive is cured, and humanity is effectively saved. While Zeke fears that the world will remember the man who saved it instead as the man at the center of the blast that started it all, after everything Cole was called, New Marais luckily goes on to remember him very differently. The Demon of Empire City becomes the patron saint of New Marais. Zeke is then left to carry his best friend's body out to the water. After everything between them, he wants to say his goodbyes to Cole, alone. Out at sea, Zeke gives him the closest thing to a funeral that he can, and as their ship reaches the horizon, Zeke says goodbye to his brother. Then, in the distance, lightning flashes across the city, and just for a moment, the bolt seems to form the shape of a question mark. In the years after Cole MacGrath's sacrifice, the world changes again. While the RFI destroyed the beast, cured the plague, and killed countless conduits in the process, it did not erase the conduit gene entirely. Some people survived, and a portion of them eventually developed powers of their own. After everything that happened in Empire City and New Marais, the United States government responds by creating the Department of Unified Protection, or D.U.P., an agency built specifically to hunt down and contain the remaining conduits. In order to get the public to accept people being rounded up and thrown into a prison camp, they don't call them conduits, however. They call them bioterrorists. Much like the militia, the D.U.P. is led by a powerful conduit named Brooke Augustine, who has control over concrete. Under her command, captured conduits are taken to a massive prison called Curtin K Station, where they're restrained, studied, and cut off from the outside world. Around this time, we find a young conduit named Abigail Walker, but most people know her as Fetch. When Fetch's parents first find out she has powers, they turn her into the D.U.P. Luckily, her older brother Brent helps her escape, and the pair begin working underground in Seattle, Washington, in order to save up money to skip across the border to the Great White North. Unfortunately, living on the street eventually turns the two towards drugs, and while Brent later gets clean, Fetch doesn't. The drugs become one of the only things that quiet the panic inside of her mind. Brent tries to pull her out of it, even hiding her stash to help her quit, but Fetch is already in too deep. Eventually, the two plan one final job, but the police show up as soon as they reach the docks. Knowing that the D.U.P would force a lockdown if they found out that she was a conduit, Brent warns his sister not to use her powers. Fetch simply ignores this advice and does so almost immediately. When one of the officers stops her, Fetch activates her powers, which allow her to control and transform into neon. She figures that they'll be out of town soon anyway, so she might as well use her abilities to get things done faster. Fetch uses her neon abilities to move through the city, slipping away from the cops before setting out to complete their final job, snatching a duffel bag full of cash from a penthouse. While she successfully breaks into the penthouse, once she gets inside, she finds the place crawling with members of a Russian gang called the Occurrence. She fights them off and finds the duffel bag, but unfortunately, she finds a briefcase of explosives right next to it. The countdown on the detonator ticks down to 0, and the case ignites, blasting Fetch out of the penthouse window. While her neon powers allow her to survive the explosion, the cash unfortunately does not. She calls Brent, who fears that if the Russians learned about the job, they likely know about their boat as well. Fetch rushes back to the dock, but finds that she's too late. The boat is aflame, and Brent is nowhere to be found. Fetch immediately blames herself for using her powers, despite it being against her and her brother's rules for survival, and then sits on the docks, left with no way out of Seattle and alone. Well, she's not alone for long. She's soon met by another contact of Brent's, arriving at the dock to search for him. The man introduces himself as Shane and assumes the Occurrence kidnapped Brent, like his other employees. Shane tells her to check the city's east side, and Fetch heads off to search for her brother. She gathers some neon from the city's signs to charge up her powers, but her search is quickly interrupted by the Occurrence. She then helps Shane steal a truck full of weapons before protecting him and his men from the Occurrence as they continue to search for Brent. Eventually, one of Shane's men hears that an Occurrent lieutenant made a collection in Georgetown, giving them a possible way to find a safe house where the gang keeps their prisoners. Shane then puts Fetch in touch with Jenny, a woman who works with him and has access to the city's camera systems. Jenny guides Fetch through security feeds, tracking the lieutenant from camera to camera. As they follow him, Fetch sees the man stalking a woman, killing another man, and then having the woman taken away, likely to the same place that Brent has been taken to. Jenny helps her copy the lieutenant's SIM card so that they can track his movements, while Shane keeps sending Fetch into more fights with the Occurrence. Eventually, Jenny cracks the phone and finds a lead on hostages being held at the docks. Fetch rides on top of Shane's trucks as they storm the area, where they open shipping containers searching for Brent. Unfortunately, Brent isn't among the captives. Instead, though, Fetch gets a call from him. He tells her that he's escaped, or at least he thinks he has, and is hiding near the South Monorail station. Fetch rushes there, desperate to reach him, but before she can, Shane makes his move. He finds Brent first and takes him hostage at gunpoint. Shane finally drops his friendly act. He tells Fetch that she's been useful, but now he has the one thing that can keep her under his control. As long as he has Brent, Fetch is forced to do what he says. Fetch is then thrown into a panic, forcing herself to focus on memories of Brent just to stay grounded. She remembers life on the streets, the addiction, the way Brent tried to help her get clean, and the reason he was so desperate to get them out of Seattle in the first place. He knew that if they didn't leave, Fetch was never going to get better. Now, Shane has him, so Fetch has no choice but to keep obeying. The situation turns more dire when Shane kills Jenny after she tries to work against him, forcing Fetch's loyalty. Shane begins using Fetch to take control of the police. He's paid off enough people to access live camera feeds, and he wants a meeting with the chief of police. Fetch refuses to slaughter cops just so Shane can have a sit-down, so he tells her to cause a distraction instead. She creates enough chaos to pull police away from the chief, allowing Shane to make his deal. The chief agrees to leave Shane's operation alone as long as Fetch leaves Seattle. Fetch agrees, only caring about taking Brent with her. Shane then tells her where he's being held, but as soon as Fetch goes to get him, she quickly realizes that it's just another trap. Shane floods the building with poison gas, figuring that if shooting her hasn't worked, maybe this will. Fetch survives though, unlocking another ability while she breaks out of the makeshift gas chamber. After fighting off Shane's thugs, she decides to go on the offensive. She doesn't know where Brent is, so she decides to force Shane out into the open by attacking what he actually cares about, his drug trade. So, she steals a headset from one of his men, listens in on their communications, and starts torching his shipments. With each loss, Shane gets more and more desperate, and Fetch tells him that it all stops if he gives her Brent. Eventually, Shane has enough and tells her to meet him at a venue called the Crocodile. Fetch arrives ready to fight, but Shane has one more trick ready. Instead of attacking her himself, he surprises her and injects her with drugs, sending her spiraling into hallucinations of her past while she fights off his thugs. In her visions, Fetch relives several of the dramatic events of her past. Slowly, the visions take over entirely, and she's forced to blindly fight off everyone around her. Suddenly, Fetch breaks free of her hallucinations and is shocked to find her brother, Brent, in front of her. Unfortunately, due to her drugged haze, she had attacked Brent, and he's currently falling dead in front of her. In his final breath, Brent tells his sister that he doesn't blame her. While she begs him not to leave her alone, Brent succumbs to his wounds and dies in his sister's arms. The D.U.P arrives shortly after and finds her. In her moment of vulnerability, they capture Fetch and take her to Curtain K. There, Fetch is brought before their leader, Brooke Augustine. Augustine asks Fetch to tell her story. In between her recounting the events, Augustine has Fetch brought into a training area to demonstrate what she can do, using hard light holograms created by another imprisoned conduit named Eugene. The holograms look and feel real, allowing Augustine to test Fetch's abilities without putting actual D.U.P soldiers in front of her. As the training continues, Augustine brings up the way Fetch's powers change during her breaks from reality. Every time Fetch's mind cracked under pressure, her body seemed to respond by unlocking something new. As it turns out, Fetch wasn't brought to Curtain K so Augustine could hear a confession. She was brought there so Augustine could bring her back to the exact moment she lost control, then see what that rage could do if someone pointed it in the right direction. To finally push her over the edge, Augustine offers Fetch something she knows she can't refuse: Shane. It's revealed that the D.U.P had been holding him inside Curtain K as well, and Augustine gives Fetch the chance to confront him. Shane naturally tries to talk his way out of it, immediately insisting that he's a normal American and not one of the freaks around him. Fetch immediately attacks him, blasting the prison apart with everything she has. In the ensuing chaos, Shane manages to escape in an armored vehicle, forcing Fetch and the D.U.P into a pursuit through the snowy area outside Curtain K. She chases Shane through the facility grounds, cutting through the defenses and tearing apart anything between them. Shane keeps running, but eventually he runs out of places to hide. When Fetch finally catches up to him, she has no mercy left. When Shane points out that he didn't kill Brent, she did, Fetch finally has enough. In an instant, she vaporizes his body into a cloud of neon, finally taking her revenge and killing Shane. The D.U.P watch these events from a nearby helicopter, and when Augustine learns of Shane's death, she's satisfied. She then claims that Fetch is finally ready. Sometime later, Fetch is loaded onto a D.U.P transport alongside other captured conduits, including Eugene and a smoke conduit named Hank Daughtry. The prisoners are restrained so they can't use their powers, but Hank has managed to smuggle in a bent paperclip. It's not exactly a race fear, but it'll do. Hank uses it to break his restraints and causes the truck to crash near the Akomish Reservation in Salmon Bay, Washington. Fetch and Eugene escape into the chaos, while Hank is left trapped in the wreckage. Nearby, a young graffiti artist named Delsin Rowe sees the crash and runs towards the burning vehicle. And, unfortunately for everyone involved, he decides to help. As Del approaches Hank to help him, he spots Delsin's brother, Reggie, who happens to be the new sheriff of Salmon Bay. The escaped conduit grabs Del to hold him hostage, but when Del grabs Hank's hand, he awakens his own conduit abilities. Suddenly, Delsin's mind is flooded with pieces of Hank's memories. He sees Kurt and Kay, the restraints, the D.U.P, and the reality of what happens to conduits once the government gets its hands on them. Del then falls unconscious, and when he awakens, he finds that he now has the ability to control smoke himself. He also finds that the entire area around him is aflame. Using his new abilities, he gets to Reggie and rescues him from being trapped underneath some wreckage by an escaping Hank. Reggie then helps calm down a panicking Delsin, assuring him that he's not a bioterrorist. He's his brother, and they'll figure it out. Delsin and Reggie then chase Hank toward the Akomish longhouse, where their friend Betty, a fellow tribe member as well as their surrogate mother figure, along with several others, are still inside. Hank, desperate to get away, sets the building on fire, trapping people inside as the flames start to spread. Reggie tells Delsin not to use his powers, but Delsin immediately has to use his powers. He turns into smoke and finds Betty inside the burning building with Hank. Del confronts him, and Betty sees what he has become. Hank tries to run away again, and Del grabs him, getting flooded with more of his memories of being in the D.U.P's captivity. Believing Hank to somehow be responsible for what's going on with him, Del proceeds to fight him with a chain that he found laying around. Unfortunately, their battle spills outside, directly into a squad of arriving D.U.P heavies. Brooke Augustine then arrives and uses her conduit abilities to trap Hank in a shell of concrete. Delsin then tries to play dumb, claiming that he was just helping catch the bioterrorist, but Augustine doesn't buy it. She notices that Delsin was alone with Hank, and he's a little more nervous than an innocent person should be. So she uses her concrete powers on him, driving shards into his legs and calmly noting that she's been told that hurts. She then threatens to do the same thing to Betty and the rest of the Akomish unless he tells her what really happened between himself and Hank. Delsin is then left with his first moral choice as a conduit. He can stay quiet and protect himself, or he can admit what happened and try to protect everyone else. To take his first step on the path to becoming a hero, Delsin tells the truth and turns himself in. He admits that he somehow absorbed Hank's powers, but insists that no one else knows anything. He thinks that if he takes responsibility, Augustine will leave the rest of the tribe alone. Unfortunately, Augustine doesn't take him at his word. She simply knocks Del out and continues interrogating the others anyway, starting with Betty. 1 week later, Delsin awakens to find that the longhouse has been turned into a makeshift medical center. Betty and several other Akomish are alive, but Augustine left concrete shards buried deep inside their bodies. He learns from Reggie that the doctors have tried everything they can, but the concrete is slowly killing them, and removing it without the same power that put it there would likely kill them even faster. So, the only way to save them would be with Augustine's power. Delsin then realizes that he touched Hank and gained smoke abilities. If he can do the same thing to Augustine, maybe he can gain her concrete ones as well. While Reggie thinks the plan is crazy, he nonetheless drives his brother to Seattle, where Augustine and the D.U.P have locked down the city while searching for the other escaped conduits. On the way, they come across a D.U.P roadblock that has already been torn apart. Reggie sees this as proof of how dangerous conduits can be, but Delsin sees something else. A government force that tried to stop someone with powers and got destroyed by an act of self-defense. In the wreckage, Delsin finds a D.U.P core relay, a device containing concentrated energy tied to conduit abilities. When he drains it, his smoke powers evolve, giving him a new ability. Reggie is not exactly thrilled, because as far as he's concerned, they're supposed to be curing Delsin's problem, not upgrading. Delsin, however, sees it differently, thinking that if he's going to ultimately take Augustine's power, he needs all the help he can get to be strong enough to survive reaching her. Soon after, they find a bus full of relief workers trying to get into Seattle. The road ahead is blocked, so Delsin uses his powers to clear the path. Despite using his powers to help them, however, the passengers refuse to let him on board. To them, Delsin is a bioterrorist after all, something that they've been told to fear for years. Reggie goes with the bus, promising to circle back for Delsin once they get across the bridge, while Delsin is forced to make his own way into the city. Unfortunately, the bus ride does not get far. As Reggie crosses the 520 bridge, the D.U.P begins shutting it down, tearing apart the structure in order to cut Seattle off from the outside world. Delsin fights his way across while the bridge collapses around him, trying to reach his brother before the whole thing drops into the water. After reuniting with Reggie, the pair try to get past a security checkpoint into the city. A fight then ensues when Del's conduit gene is recognized, and during it, he encounters D.U.P troops using concrete powers of their own. At first, this seems like exactly what he needs. If he can absorb concrete from one of Augustine's soldiers, he doesn't even need to find her, and he can go home immediately. So he tries. Unfortunately though, nothing happens. Reggie eventually puts the pieces together. Delsin can only absorb powers from fellow prime conduits, or people who naturally have those abilities. The D.U.P soldiers may use concrete, but their powers are weaker, and either artificial or borrowed from Augustine in some way. Which means they unfortunately still need to hunt her down. With Reggie using his police contacts to help guide him through the city remotely, Delsin begins targeting D.U.P mobile command centers. Each one acts as a local hub for surveillance and control, and every time Delsin destroys one, Augustine's grip on that part of Seattle weakens. He also finds more core relays, building up his smoke powers further and giving himself a better chance against the D.U.P. Eventually, Reggie identifies a major D.U.P communications antenna mounted on none other than the Space Needle. Taking it down would cripple D.U.P coordination in the surrounding district, and, more importantly for Delsin, it would involve climbing the Space Needle. So, he obviously agrees. Delsin then scales the tower, fighting D.U.P forces along the way, while Reggie tries to remind him that this is an actual military objective and not just an excuse to do something stupid at a famous landmark. Delsin then reaches the top, destroys the antenna, and knocks out a major piece of Augustine's communication network. Afterward, Del spray paints a massive symbol across the D.U.P's flag flying atop the Space Needle, announcing that someone in Seattle is finally fighting back. The media notices this and starts calling him the Banner Man, which is kind of unfortunate for Delsin. Still, the stunt gets attention, and that attention leads Reggie to another problem that's brewing in Seattle. Oh my god, brewing in Seattle! Someone with neon powers has been killing drug dealers. The brothers figure that if they can find this conduit serial killer, Del can absorb their neon abilities to give him an extra edge against the D.U.P. Delsin then begins investigating the murders, photographing bodies and evidence while Reggie runs the details through police databases. Soon, Del starts seeing flashes of neon across the city, with signs dimming as the killer drains them. While he doesn't know who she is, she's a faster, stronger, and a lot more experienced conduit than he is. When Delsin tracks the killer to a hideout filled with evidence, memories, and signs of obsession surrounding Brent Walker, Reggie identifies Brent as a man with a drug-related arrest who later turned up dead, killed by a single wound through his chest. Delsin then realizes that this neon-using killer must be avenging Brent. Eventually, he follows the trail to a seafood restaurant with a massive neon sign, figuring that if she needs neon to recharge, this is where she'll probably go. Del hides there, and when she arrives, he quickly surprises her and grabs her, triggering the same kind of psychic flash that he had experienced with Hank. More importantly though, by the time Delsin comes back too, Fetch's neon powers have now been added to his own. She immediately runs, and Del tries out his new traversal abilities by giving chase. They eventually stop at a theater, where a battle then ensues. While Del is outmatched, he wisely drains all of the nearby neon before Fetch can, and eventually brings her down. Delsin grabs Fetch again, and this time he sees her memories more clearly. In an instant, he learns her life story. Her parents turning her in, Brent running away with her, the two of them surviving on the streets, the drugs, Brent's death, the D.U.P, Kurt and Kay, all of it. Reggie then arrives, and the brothers argue over what to do with the incapacitated Fetch. Reggie wants to turn her in before she kills anyone else, but Delsin refuses, pointing out that handing her back to the D.U.P just sends her right back into the system that made her worse in the first place. At this point, Delsin can decide to mold Fetch into a remorseless killer to set loose on the anti-conduit activists, or help redeem herself by working together to dismantle Seattle's drug trade without murder. For the hero path, he obviously chooses the latter choice. Either way though, Reggie isn't too happy. Fetch then starts training Delsin in the neon arts, leading him through the city and teaching him how to drain neon signs, dash through the streets, run up walls, and fire with enough control to subdue enemies. As they work together, Fetch keeps going after the dealers, and Delsin starts trying to redirect her. She wants to kill everyone connected to the drug trade, but Delsin argues that they can do more damage by destroying the product instead. The two then hit the drug operation directly, destroying shipments, burning supply routes, and freeing people being held by the dealers. Afterward, Fetch admits that Delsin might have actually saved her from herself. Naturally though, Delsin doesn't let the moment stay too sincere for long, but the connection between them is there regardless. Through Fetch, Del has gained his first powerful ally in the city. Soon afterward, Delsin follows the D.U.P's activity to the Lantern District, so he crosses one of the destroyed bridges to reach it. There, he's shocked to find Augustine herself waiting for him. She reveals that she's been watching him and knows about his new abilities. She then throws a powerful agent at him to test them. While Del emerges victorious, Augustine traps him in concrete and attempts to take him in. Suddenly, however, Delsin is swept up and rescued by a mysterious flying creature, which proceeds to drop him off safely in the Lantern District before vanishing. When Delsin recovers, he's soon contacted by a self-proclaimed fan of his named Eugene Sims, the other conduit who escaped with Fetch and Hank. Eugene tells Del about a D.U.P convoy taking suspected conduits to a holding facility that just so happens to be passing through the Lantern District. Del intercepts the D.U.P trucks, fighting through the guards and eventually stopping the transports before they can reach the holding facility. However, as he goes to search the buses for conduits, a helicopter crashes from the sky and knocks Delsin unconscious. When he comes to, Delsin finds all of the buses already empty. As he searches them, he hears rumblings of the former captives being swept up by flying angels, or demons, depending on Delsin's influence so far. Soon enough, he starts seeing these abductions occur himself, when he and Reggie locate some of the convoy's escaped conduits. In order to figure out where the angels/demons are taking the conduits, Reggie comes up with the genius plan of disguising himself as one of the escaped prisoners in order to get captured. The plan works, and Reggie is soon captured and flown away, leaving Del to follow his phone's GPS signal. Del follows Reggie's signal across the Lantern District, with Eugene suspiciously getting more and more nervous the closer he gets. Eventually, Del reaches their hideout and finds something that he wasn't expecting. The suspected conduits aren't being dragged off to be hurt, they're being freed. The angels/demons are breaking them out of their restraints and helping them escape before the D.U.P can throw them back in chains. Del pushes deeper into the hideout, but as he does, the world around him suddenly starts to shift. The room falls away, and Del is pulled into a strange, digital space filled with platforms, demons, angels, and one massive winged creature known as He Who Dwells. He Who Dwells then attacks Del, forcing him to fight through the digital arena while more creatures swarm around him. Del keeps pushing forward until he finally brings the giant creature down for good. When the illusion collapses, the truth is then revealed. He Who Dwells is actually Eugene Sims, hiding behind a digital fantasy world because the real one hasn't exactly been kind to him. Del then absorbs Eugene's power, and as he does, he sees enough of Eugene's past to understand him. Eugene spent most of his life isolated, bullied, and being pushed around. When his powers manifested, he didn't become a conqueror or a killer, he retreated further into the one place where he actually felt powerful, his video games. There, he became He Who Dwells. Reggie, again, wants to bring Eugene in. From his perspective, Eugene may have been trying to help, but he still grabbed people off of the street, kidnapped him, and dragged Del into a fantasy death arena. That is generally the kind of thing that law enforcement frowns upon. Del, once again, has the choice to redeem or corrupt Eugene. In our hero path, he convinces Eugene to stop hiding behind the game completely. If he really wants to help people, Eugene can do it as himself. He can use the angels to rescue conduits, protect people from the D.U.P, and fight back against the criminals who are rounding up suspects to sell right back to Augustine. Which means that Del now has Fetch and Eugene on his side. Unfortunately, as soon as Del leaves Eugene's hideout, he finds that not only did he not obtain the young conduit's powers, but he's also lost the other smoke and neon powers. The now powerless Del then rushes to find Reggie, who actually sees his brother returning to normal as a good thing. Delsin disagrees, vowing to take down Augustine no matter what it takes. Eventually, he convinces Reggie to shoot open a few of the core relays, which Del absorbs to finally gain the power to control video. With it, he can drain energy from screens, turn invisible, fire digital projectiles, and launch himself through the air with glowing wings. With his new video abilities, Del continues dismantling the D.U.P's operations in the Lantern District. He destroys more mobile command centers, tears down propaganda, clears out enemy patrols, and uses Eugene's help to protect suspected conduits before they can be captured again. Soon after, though, Fetch and Eugene contact him, confused and angry, asking why he's tearing through downtown. Except, he isn't. Someone else with smoke powers is currently rampaging through the city. Del quickly realizes that it has to be Hank Daughtry. Del then tracks Hank through the city, only to be met with a single punch once he catches up to him. That knocks Delsin out immediately. When he wakes up, Hank surprisingly calls Del and agrees to work with them to take down Augustine and the D.U.P. Unfortunately, Hank informs Del that in the time that he was out cold, Eugene and Fetch were recaptured by the D.U.P. and taken to a big concrete structure out on Puget Sound. Delsin then meets with Reggie, who finally admits to his brother that they're not helping bioterrorists. They're not even helping conduits. They're helping people. Hank then arrives, and despite some friction between himself and Reggie, Delsin follows him out to the makeshift prison island. Hank helps guide Del inside, and the pair start taking down the structure's concrete support beams. As they reach a core relay, however, Del notices that something is off about it. Suddenly, his instincts prove to be correct as his hands are suddenly encased in concrete. Augustine then arrives, revealing that Hank had been working with the D.U.P. all along. He runs off, and Reggie arrives just in time. Armed with a rocket launcher, Reggie blasts his way into the fight and gives Del the opening he needs to break free. The brothers regroup and find Fetch and Eugene encased in a concrete trap. Unfortunately, Augustine arrives in tow and brings the entire structure crashing down. She then encases Reggie's feet in concrete and blasts both brothers off of the side of the platform. Del manages to grab hold, and Reggie grabs onto him, leaving the two dangling over the water below. Del tries to pull his brother up, but the concrete around Reggie's feet is too heavy. No matter how hard he tries, he can't lift him. Reggie realizes his fate before Del does. He finally tells his brother how proud he is of him, that he's always been. Then, Reggie lets go. Del is forced to helplessly watch his brother fall into the water below, left with nothing he can do to stop it. Del climbs back up, and all of that grief instantly turns into rage. He goes after Augustine with everything he has: smoke, neon, video. Every power he's gained since the crash at Salmon Bay gets thrown at her all at once. The battle tears through the island, and while Augustine survives, the structure itself doesn't. The whole thing begins collapsing into the water as Del is thrown from the wreckage. As Del washes back ashore, he decides to go after Hank, who's still out there somewhere. Hank tries to get away through the city, but Del tracks him down, chasing him across Seattle until Hank finally reaches the waterfront. When Del catches him, Hank tries to convince him that Augustine told him that she just wanted to speak with Del, but he doesn't buy it. Hank then admits that Augustine had kidnapped his daughter. Right on cue, a boat pulls up with Hank's daughter aboard. With her watching, Del puts his chain around her father's neck. Delsin is then left with a moral choice. He can kill Hank for what happened to Reggie, or he can let him leave with his daughter. For our hero path, Del lets him go. So Hank and his daughter leave Seattle. While Reggie is gone, the original plan carries on. Del meets back up with Fetch and Eugene, and the trio prepare to hit the D.U.P. directly. Augustine has been operating out of the Channel 6 news station, turning it into both a headquarters and a propaganda machine. Del cuts power to the tower's defenses and attacks the D.U.P. forces protecting it. Fetch and Eugene join the assault, helping him fight his way up the outside of the broadcast tower while the defending soldiers try to hold them back. When Delsin finally reaches the top, he finds Augustine and confronts her with what he's figured out. The transport crash at Salmon Bay wasn't just some random accident. Augustine allowed it to happen. She needed the public to be afraid of conduits again. She needed Seattle to see them running loose, hurting people, and causing chaos. Because without that fear, the D.U.P. would lose its reason to exist. Augustine doesn't deny it, but she does give her side of the story. In her mind, she's protecting conduits. Years earlier, when the world first learned about them, people with powers weren't just arrested. They were hunted and killed by the military. Augustine believes that while Curtain K may be a prison, she also sees it as a safe haven. She believes that if conduits are locked away, at least that way they're kept alive. If the public stays afraid, then the D.U.P. stays funded. And if the D.U.P. stays funded, then Augustine can keep collecting conduits before the rest of the world tears them apart. Del rejects her reasoning outright though, deciding to expose her to the public to let them decide who the real protector and who the real threat really is. Augustine sees that as a death sentence for all conduits, so a fight predictably breaks out between her and Delsin. Del is able to grab onto Augustine during their brawl, sending him on a journey through her memories, confirming her motivations. More importantly, however, this contact finally gives Del the power that he's been searching for this entire time: the power to control concrete. At first, Augustine still has the clear advantage. She spent years mastering concrete, while Del only has the powers he's picked up along the way. She surrounds herself with massive armor, transforming into a monstrous form that barrages him with concrete, nearly overwhelming him. Luckily though, Del gets a little help from his friends. Eugene arrives and manages to throw core relays into the room, allowing Del to power up his new concrete powers. Del then absorbs them one by one mid-battle, pushing himself further until he breaks through Augustine's defenses, wears down the massive concrete form around her, and eventually defeats her. As Augustine falls, Del traps her in the same case of concrete that she once used on him. When she reacts to the pain, he simply quips that he's been told that hurts. For the hero path though, Del ultimately spares Augustine, exposing her crimes to the world instead. The truth about the D.U.P., the staged escape, Curtain K, and Augustine's manipulation finally comes out, and Brooke Augustine is taken away by the authorities as the people of Seattle watch on. In the end, the head of the D.U.P. is brought down by a small-town delinquent, an ex-junkie, and a gamer. With Augustine defeated, the D.U.P.'s control over Seattle finally collapses. The conduits imprisoned in Curtain K are freed, and Del describes the world as entering a second age, one where conduits and humans might finally have a chance to live together instead of being separated by fear, propaganda, and prison walls. However, before Del can think about any of that, he still has unfinished business back home. He returns to Salmon Bay and uses his absorbed concrete power to remove the shards from Betty and the rest of the inFamous tribe, saving the people that he originally set out to protect. Finally, Del returns to the billboard that he was in the middle of vandalizing when the transport bus crashed, one congratulating Reggie on becoming the new sheriff. This time, he doesn't deface it to annoy his brother. He turns it into a memorial for him instead. When it's finished, Del stands in front of it and says his goodbyes. He tells Reggie that he loves him and that he's sure gonna miss him. This brings us to the end of the mainline inFamous games. But while the main timeline's wrapped up, there's still one last official game to cover. Kind of. Sometime after Cole MacGrath's final sacrifice, we find Zeke Dunbar sitting alone in a New Marais bar, reading a vampire comic, when he notices a woman named Kat ordering a beer nearby. Naturally, he tries to strike up a conversation, offering to buy her a drink. Kat tells him that she can pay for her own, and Zeke, never one to let a rejection stop him, simply tells her that's good, because she can get the next round for both of them. Somehow, this works well enough to keep the conversation going. When Kat notices the comic and gives him a hard time for reading kiddie books, Zeke insists that it's not just a comic, it's research. Important research, in fact, because according to him, that very comic helped him save Cole MacGrath from eternal damnation. Kat, understandably, doesn't believe him, But she has heard of Cole MacGrath, so she proceeds to listen to Zeke's story. He asks her if she knows about Pyre Night, a New Moray festival built around bonfires, booze, music, and monster costumes. Zeke's tale begins on one of these very nights, with New Moray celebrating in the streets while Cole hears screams coming from underneath the cathedral. He heads into the catacombs to investigate and begins helping civilians trapped below. Cole makes his way through the tunnels, following the cries for help until he finds a woman seemingly in danger. However, when he gets close, she attacks him, and Cole is knocked unconscious. When Cole awakens, he finds himself being dragged into a ritual chamber somewhere beneath the city. His wrists are chained down, vampires are gathered around him, and lying nearby is the burned corpse of a woman they seemingly intend to resurrect. As Zeke tells it, the vampires cut Cole's neck and let his blood drip into the corpse's mouth. Since Cole is not exactly a normal person, his conduit blood is powerful enough to bring her back to life. The corpse begins to move, then lunges forward and bites him, feeding on Cole until her body restores itself. This is Bloody Mary, the vampire queen of New Moray. Mary explains that Cole's blood has revived her, but the bite has also infected him. By sunrise, he'll fully transform into a vampire and become hers forever. Cole tries to fight back, but Mary already has a hold over him, able to get inside of his head and force his body to obey her. As Mary leaves the catacombs, Cole manages to break free, but quickly realizes that his amp melee weapon is now missing. So, with no better option, he pulls a cross from a nearby coffin and turns it into a makeshift vampire killing stake. Cole then fights his way out of the catacombs and reaches the surface, only for his new condition to immediately worsen. A civilian approaches him asking for directions, and Cole is suddenly overwhelmed by hunger. Before he can stop himself, he lunges at her and drinks her blood. Mary then speaks into his mind, explaining that the blood is what fuels him now. Also, Cole still has his electricity, but vampirism has given him new abilities as well. He can turn into a swarm of bats, fly through the city, and use a heightened vampire sense to identify other vampires hiding in plain sight. Unfortunately, all of this comes with the small drawback of needing to feed on people's blood. Cole then calls Zeke and tells him what happened, including his 8-hour deadline to kill Bloody Mary. Together, they start looking into Pyre Night and the legend behind it. As it turns out, the festival isn't just an excuse for New Moray to get drunk in costumes. It celebrates the defeat of Bloody Mary centuries earlier, when a priest named Father Ignatius rallied the city against her. According to the legend, Ignatius was eventually buried with the only weapon capable of killing her, the barbed cross. Cole heads to a statue of Father Ignatius, where Mary sends her harpies after him. After fighting them off, he moves on to the Lamberton Clock Tower, where a shadow puppet theater performance gives him and Zeke more of the story. Bloody Mary once terrorized New Moray, until Ignatius and the people of the city rose up, captured her, and burned her alive. The performance also confirms that the barbed cross was buried with Ignatius, so Cole heads to the graveyard to dig it up before Mary's vampires can get there first. Unfortunately, Mary's vampires get there first. Cole arrives to find 2 firstborns, vampires disguised among the Pyre Night crowds, already raiding the grave. One of them escapes with the cross, forcing Cole to use his new vampire sense to track the creature through the streets. Eventually, Cole follows the trail back into the catacombs. There, he fights through more of Mary's minions and reaches the box that held the barbed cross, only to find it, unfortunately, empty. However, the box does at least explain what the weapon is made of: sacred wood, silver, and holy water, all combined into a weapon specifically built to destroy vampires. As the night goes on, Cole and Zeke discover something even worse. Hidden throughout the catacombs are elevators carrying tanks of white phosphorus up towards the surface of the city. Mary isn't just trying to survive the night, she's planning to burn New Moray to the ground as revenge for what the city did to her. Cole destroys the elevators before the phosphorus can be used, then continues searching the catacombs for the barbed cross. Along the way, he finds traces of Mary's past, revealing that she wasn't always the monster that New Moray remembers. Long ago, Mary was a human woman dying of smallpox. A vampire named Marco, who had fallen in love with her, turned her to save her life. The two then fled together, but Father Ignatius eventually hunted them down. Ignatius killed Marco, believing it might undo Mary's transformation, but by then, it was too late. Instead of saving her, he left her alone. Mary became furious, built her own clan, and eventually came back to New Marais, where her reign of terror led to the city burning her alive. With only an hour left before sunrise, Zeke finally gets a lead. A powerful firstborn has the barbed cross and is circling the district. Cole spots the creature flying over the rooftops and begins to give chase. Mary keeps interfering, speaking into Cole's mind and trying to wear her down. She tells him that vampirism is a gift, that he should be grateful, and that by dawn, he'll stop fighting and finally accept what he's become. Cole, shockingly, remains opposed to becoming a blood-drinking slave monster. Eventually, he catches the firstborn and defeats it, finally reclaiming the barbed cross. He then attaches it to his own cross, turning his found weapon into something capable of killing Mary for good. As the dawn draws near, Cole heads to confront her, while Zeke goes underground to arm the phosphorus bombs that Mary had planned to use against the city. Cole fights Mary and her vampires across New Marais, eventually bringing the battle to the Father Ignatius statue. Mary hovers above the monument, trying to finish what she started, but Cole calls down an ionic storm, blasting her with lightning and shattering the statue beneath her. The ground gives way, and Mary falls back down into the catacombs. Below the city, Zeke arms the bombs, while Cole holds off waves of vampires. Mary tries to escape before the sun rises, and before Zeke can finish the job, but Cole intercepts her with the barbed cross. The two fight one last time in the tunnels, with Mary's control over him getting stronger as dawn approaches. With only moments left, Zeke finishes arming the explosives, and he and Cole race for the exit. However, as they reach the stairs, the sun begins to rise. Cole starts burning in the daylight, with the vampirism finally catching up to him. Zeke turns back to help him, only to see Mary trying to escape too. So, he quickly detonates all of the bombs. The explosion tears through the catacombs, destroying Mary and her remaining vampires. With Mary dead, the curse over Cole is then broken, and he luckily returns to normal before the sunlight can finish burning him away. And that, according to Zeke, is how he saved Cole MacGrath from eternal damnation. Back in the bar, Kat seems entertained enough by the story, though not exactly convinced. Still, Zeke appears to have done the impossible and successfully impressed her. Then, Cole walks in. He asks Zeke for help in getting his amp out of a pool, but Zeke, realizing he might actually have a shot with Kat, tells Cole that he's busy. Kat, however, offers to help Cole instead, liking the idea of a dip in the pool. As she leaves with him, she thanks Zeke for the educational story. Then, she turns to flash her own vampire fangs. And with that, we finally reach the end of the inFamous timeline. From one courier opening the wrong package at the wrong time, to a city torn apart by conspiracy, plague, and superhuman fear, to an entirely new generation of conduits fighting to exist in a world that already decided they didn't belong, inFamous has always been about power, but more importantly, what people choose to do once they have it. And while the series has been dormant for quite a while now, its fingerprints are still all over Sucker Punch's work. Whether inFamous ever comes back or not, it still stands as one of PlayStation's most distinct franchises. Cole MacGrath gave everything to save the world. Delsin Rowe helped make sure people like him could actually live in it. And Zeke Dunbar lived long enough to tell vampire stories in a bar. Honestly, that might be the biggest miracle of all. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching this one. Huge thanks, as always, to the Patreon supporters and channel members on screen who help make these massive story recaps possible. The YouTube algorithm hates long-form content now, so if you've stuck around to the end, you're really helping me out too. And hey, while you're here, you can leave a like, subscribe for more timelines, and let me know in the pinned comment what franchise or game you want to see me cover next. This is Suggestive Gaming after all, so suggest away. Thanks again, everybody. As always, I'm Suggestive Gaming, and now, you're in the know.